Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the RationalInvestor.com's Broiler Chicken Show. Actually, usually this has a little chicken icon. Let's see if that's updated. Buck, buck, buck. Brian running around outside the rooster. Yeah. Oh, goodness. Wow, what a day. I had the fire alarm go off in my building yesterday, and I'm a big fatso now. And literally, I mean, God, man, I think I used to be a tennis instructor, which is so funny because I used to, what tennis players' bodies look like. So, wow, what a shift for the old man. Anyway, we had a fire drill yesterday, and I had to walk 19 floors. You can imagine what the old man's body's feeling like today. Oops. If anything, though, probably a good kick in the butt, get me up off my feet, and exercising a bit on a daily basis, getting ready for a big Portugal adventure coming up in September. Woohoo, party! I don't know. We probably should have if Joshua or Julian or somebody from the team is watching this. We probably should have like a page or something like this, a link on the banner up here for the Portugal meetup to really sort of, have everybody aware of it. The only thing that I think right now that I have, and I don't know, there is Julian, so I guess he is watching. The only thing I have right now is Josh, our sort of marketing slash swing trader slash Twitter PMA feed duder. He put together a really cool little icon logo kind of thing. Hey, there he is. Yeah, what a title, eh? I got to get that on a business card. But anyway, he put this up, this cool logo, which I really like. I think this is a really good image. But we got this coming up here this September. So if you happen to be in the Portugal area, of course, this is Big Brother willing. The good part about most of you Europeans is it's not too difficult to travel in and around the continent. I might have a bit of a challenge getting from North America over to Europe, but I'll cross that bridge when we get to it. But point of the matter here is we have the big meetup. And if anything, what I've told everybody is, you want a way to finance this meetup. Man, I think this Ethereum here is going to, and probably the whole risk market, but Ethereum alone is probably going to pay for TRI's budget for this late summer meetup. So anyway, I thought I put a funny little tweet up there the other day saying, look, you're either going to take the trade with me, and that means you're going to make some money and come and party with us in Nazaré. Sure hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Or you're going to watch us do it. And if that's the case, then get your butt in the school so that the next time one of these bottoms comes in, you can take full advantage of it. So anyway, blah, blah, blah. It's good to see that, we've been talking about a market pivot here. Literally, I'd probably say for the past 4 or 5 months now. I can't find the darn tweet. Oh, well, typical. So it's about bloody time, eh? Man, this has been just a crappy market for a while. So anyway, nice to see us finally turning back up in earnest. Yeah, here we go. So this is the tweet that I put out. Because, I mean, look at this chart. Most of the people, after a while playing this game, you should look at a chart like this and go, gee whiz, this thing's been going down now pretty much consistently since 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 months. I mean, 8 months in one direction, that's painful. There's got to be a little bit of back and forth here. I remember there was one guy that I used to do business with quite a bit, Nazim. And he would always go, it can't keep going like this. I mean, people aren't going to make any money. They just can't do it. It's impossible. Anyway, I can't remember how the joke went. It was a lot funnier when he said it. Anyway, so the point of the matter here is I do think that we're a little overdue for some sort of bounce. My hunch is we probably bounce into things like 38.2s, first stop targets, all you current level oneers, and I suppose recent level one grads and level twoers and stuff. You're probably seeing this more and more. I mean, I've seen it in my career endlessly. And also interesting too that the market itself setting up the rally. Fascinating that a move back down to this downtrend line, which would be normal. This is actually the trend here, not where we are right now. 38.2s, which is normal. Is this still a bear? And it might still well very easily be a bear. Don't get me wrong. I'm certainly not calling a new bull market now. And then good old Foggenbaum. We could also say, too, that there's probably a bunch of people that if this is still a bear and they want to be short, probably want to be short from around this 2,500 level. That is that last structural breakdown level. I mean, ironically enough, you can actually make I think you can make 4 very realistic trade location arguments for this, $2,500 an ETH number. It's not out of the question. And then also too, and I thought this was fascinating that we're starting to see just tons of little anecdotal evidence all over the place. And of course, your favorite insider and mine, Mr. Nancy, and actually this is I don't know whether she bought this or whether her husband bought this, and then, well, it's just because he's getting these awesome signals from this great trading advisor. No, not insider trading. No, not at all. So, interesting. It's not really that big of a expiry though. June 17th, it said leaps were bought June 3rd, 2021 and expired June 17th, 2022. So that's like an old trade. So I'm not even quite sure if this is any new information. If anything, it's probably just trying to highlight how corrupt all these people are. But I'm just seeing over and over and over, lots and lots. I think if I'm not mistaken, we us on the site, we joke about Mr. Nancy because Mr. Nancy identifies himself as a houseplant. And he's an awfully good trader, or she, or it, whatever the hell it is. And they went and bought a bunch of Microsoft and Apple just recently. And recently, I think it was May 24th specifically. So I guess it's kind of interesting that people are talking a little bit about this. Ironically enough, when I look at NVIDIA, I don't really, if anything, I see the same thing that I see with Ethereum. And I see, what's interesting is I really see it right across the board in technology. So, here is one particular semiconductor proxy, NXPI. I'm not even quite sure who specifically these guys are, but they spat out a key reversal there, which is something our system picks up. Also notice too, oh, what a surprise, key reversal in the Taiwan capped ETF. What do you think the odds are? Taiwan semiconductor is probably looking a little bit uppy here. So, whether it be individual semiconductor stocks, actually it's kind of interesting going through the system. And this is this is the selling feature of the system is, do you really, do you want to just sit and listen to the talking heads tell you what to buy and sell? Or do you want to just use, do you want to use like an algorithmic approach to how you're going to invest your money? And that's the one thing I absolutely love about using a system like this is, clearly when the market is overbought and breadth is starting to break down, you want to cool your jets. When breadth is bottoming out, you want to be hunting setups. And, we actually, in my little study, this is the dashboard package that we sell. I happen to have some of my preferred personal signals. And actually, this is an interesting commentary. I was going through this over the, yesterday, getting ready for today. And something like this weekly bullish 52-week, 50-week 50%. This is a really good sort of anecdote of what's cheap in the marketplace right now. And ironically enough, I've been making the argument that I actually like something like Boeing in here. But you go through all of these stocks. I mean, look at that thing, eh? They're just throwing it away. And the issue, of course, is that I'm a type of investor that when I see assets that look like this, I start to get really interested. Institutions buy down markets, that kind of thinking. You can see the really wide double bottom here on this Biogen, same sort of idea. You scroll out on it. And this particular screener just picks up stocks that have been absolutely just thrown, baby thrown out with the bathwater. Of course, you got to get the signal, the little chart functioning thing to cooperate. But just look at that image, like, damn. Like as a contrarian, that's the kind of stuff I want to focus in on. And I thought it was interesting on the site. We've been talking recently about things like Boeing as kind of attractive place to have some money working from a contrarian perspective, from this sort of 52-week high, 52-week low kind of thinking. I thought I had it on the list though. Anyway, I wanted to show you that. Well, now we're back over here. If anything, we got so many little bugs that you need to work out here. So we got to go back to the signals page. Here we are. All right, finally made it back. And where was it? I thought I saw Boeing on here. Anyway, I guess the thing that really, like a couple of these look really interesting to me, from a contrarian perspective, especially things like that Biogen. But fascinating how, look at that on the other side of the market. What's the one part of the market that probably we should be avoiding like the plague right now? It looks like it's the oil market, eh? Marathon Oil, Occidental Petroleum, Devon Energy, Apache Corporation. P.S. If you don't know stocks, these are all oil stocks. So these things should all look like they're at the ridiculous top end of the range. Wow, look at, oh my goodness, look at that signal. Don't touch this thing. Don't touch this thing. Oh my goodness, look at this one. Don't touch this thing. Holy moly. So you can see, and actually it's interesting. These signals are all a little bit old. What was that? That was June 6th. Oh yeah. Okay. So okay. So this is an interesting commentary too, because keep in mind, the screener will only spit up ideas that are at the extreme. So what it means right now, being the beginning of July, of course, a lot of the stock market has peaked and is actually broken and is nowhere near being overbought. So if anything, this is a perfect analogy that, about a month or so ago, you probably should have been selling your oil. Isn't that fascinating? Look at, is that not Josh? Where's that Josh guy? Josh, are you around here? I thought I saw you on the call here.
I'm around.
Hey, there he is. He's sort of our marketing guy here that for social media. Is that not a message we could tell to the public? The system told you to get out here. And look at that. Gold. They're all oil stocks. This is ridiculous. Look at that. Marathon, Occidental Pete, Devon Energy, Apache, and look at what's happened here. Holy crap. So this is a screener that's not necessarily going to say buy this or sell this weekly bullish 52-week 50% or weekly bear. It's just going to be pay attention. You do not want to be buying these kind of names. And if you're long, maybe you better seriously consider, if you get any sell signals, get the hell out or take profits or something. And then the exact opposite is the weekly bullish. And this is the whole idea of, institutions buy down markets. The public buys up markets. And of course, the public always loses money. I mean, look at these charts. Is that not cheap? I mean, that's the exact, oh, darn it. Okay, so you got to fight with the damn chart here. Eventually, we'll get our act together with this charting thing. But I mean, and this is Biogen. Of course, all the biotech stocks super on the outs. Remember, I bought that Claritas little penny biotech stock in Vancouver, and wow, what a disaster that was. So anyway, from a timing perspective, I love this signaling system. I mean, it's so perfect. Like CarMax, I don't even know what business these guys are in, but holy for a holy, so have they ever gotten their butts kicked here? Oh, darn it. Gotta get the chart to cooperate. Look at that. Is there a potential for a 50% bounce there? I think so. Charter Communications. I think that might even be a semiconductor stock. Look at that one, eh? So I love this tool. It's just so awesome. And interesting, the parts of the market that that this is interested in right now, especially like that Biogen. Nobody's really talking about that. Anyway, so what have I been sort of doing in the market? Been seeing a lot of these kind of names like Taiwan Cap Semiconductor play. What do you think? Is that kind of due for a bit of a bounce? I think so. I thought that was interesting. This Arista Networks, and these are all off of. This signaling list that I give you guys. This thing's got everything in it. There's all the key reversals. So these are all the key reversal signals that I was just talking about. Things like the semiconductor stocks and stuff like that. I mean, I really wouldn't chase a stock like that. I mean, that takes balls buying a key reversal right up at the top end of the range. But look at this little guy, Lam Research. I think that is a semiconductor name. So that doesn't surprise me. O'Reilly Automotive. We've been sort of whipshot on this one in the past, though. So not really. I mean, just because you get a key reversal signal, that doesn't mean it's a trade idea alone. Remember, everything all has to fit in. Trade location, indicator confirmation, price structure. And if you want to use key reversals as a price structure, fine. Away you go. So like this one, for instance, there's a key reversal, but you could say, look, I'm going to take the key reversal signal that's also a big honking double bottom. Qualcomm, that's an interesting tech stock. Wow, look at this one. Holy Jesus. So I don't even know what these guys do, but this is a really good example where usually when things are good technical buys, nobody talks about this shit. It's only after it's gone up, God, 50x, 100x, and then everybody's all like, ah. So I don't know what the hell what this Skyworks does, but damn, look at that chart. I mean, the only thing that's sort of really missing here is I'd like to see some serious buying pressure. But gee whiz, look at that. I mean, it's incredible. The only problem is it's still $100. So I mean, it's not cheap. And Brian's a cheap ass. But yeah, I mean, it's cool to see that a lot of bottoms that look exactly like this are coming in. Like I said, this Arista Networks. That looks almost exactly the same. This Taiwan capped ETF. And of course, this is a play on Taiwan Semiconductor. There is this semiconductor name, NXPI, another key reversal. So you can see all of these markets are trying to bottom here. It's not just crypto. It's not just Ethereum. It's not just Bitcoin. It looks, and of course, remember, tech is highly, highly correlated with crypto and Bitcoin. I would imagine as we go morph into this growth cycle, we're going to have more emphasis on things like DeFi and smart contracts, and you use things like Ethereum as Mr. Vitalik's supercomputer to access these smart contracts versus them being like, you know what, they're going to devalue the currency, so we better get into an asset that has a stable base and that we know actually has some intrinsic value to it. Now, obviously, during recessions, markets get knocked down to value levels. So, if anything, it's a great analogy if we want to use something like Bitcoin, that as we go through recessionary corrections, you should see the price of Bitcoin come down back down to things like POW, cost of production. But I get the feeling that when we go into the growth phase and things like are super uber growthy, that we're going to go to valuations that'll just make your head spin. And especially like I'm hearing, I thought it was interesting. People are saying, you know, one of the reasons why Ethereum is moving up right now is because of the merger. I'm not quite sure why they call it a merge. Somebody said that in the lounge that it turns out that ETC and ETH are merging back together again, which made me laugh because I'm sure that's going to be news to Mr. Silbert. But anyway, if I understand correctly, ETH is going to be moving from POW to POS. And, you know, I think the scuttlebutt amongst our sort of crypto community aficionados is that the whole world is going to be encouraged to move away from POW. Whoa, horrible energy wasters, all that kind of nonsense talk, towards POS. What scares me about that is that, you know, right now, as I said there a moment ago, and if we, you know, even if you look at a chart like this is really not the start of a new bull market. And if you look at something like that, that is not the start of a new bull market. And I might argue it's the exact same thing on, you know, this happens to be, this is that Aritzia network. You can actually see the bearish market structure that's fully in play. And all this is just what they call a dead cat bounce within a bear market, right? Up there. So, and you can see, like, even a name like this, man, it's got a long way. It could very easily bounce. In fact, all you level oneers, you should look at this chart and you should say, right off the bat, we want to see this fib retracement. And it's not necessarily telling you that it's a new bull market. It's not necessarily telling you it's a bear market. It's just telling you this is what naturally should happen before we even have the conversation about whether this is still a bull or still a bear. And that is a 38.2 retracement. So, people on the site have learned recently, thanks. We actually haven't seen, Colin, if you watch this weekend, we're having a lot of people ask you to come on and do a piece on the Daily Brief. Maybe you could do a guest shot recently, tell us how things are going with the baby and give us some of your reads. But you know, I teach in the education program. I first learned this 38.2 bounce concept from a gentleman by the name of Ray Burchett out of New York. And he runs a program called Intuitive Development for Traders. We call it the first stop target, because really what should happen here, and this is assuming an even greater bounce, but what should happen here is we should bounce at least to 38.2, and quite often we'll even do like full Gann retracement where we actually bounce right up to 50% roll. This would be sort of like technical analysis 101. And this is the level that I suggest all new traders use as sort of your profit measuring level. I shall take profits on a 50% bounce. Colin, as somebody just pointed out there in the hangout just a moment ago, he learned from the program about 38.2s and 50% rolls, and he kind of said, well, you know, the key here, and I think he ran a kind of an advisory service, although we're not technically legal advisors, so we have to be very careful with that kind of talk. And FYI, anybody listening to this call that is a regulator, we do not give financial advice here at TRI. We teach people how to build small trading plan businesses, and we show you a number of different ways that you can identify edge And we show you the different ways that you can manage yourself in the marketplace, but we don't ever actually tell anybody what to buy or sell. If anything, when anybody ever asks me, well, Brian, what should I do with my money? I always say, well, I'll tell you what I would do if I was either considering buying this or I was already long and I was trying to figure out what I was going to do next. I won't comment on you and your personal situation. That's up to you and your financial advisor. So, any regulator listening to this, of course, super important that everybody understands that right out of the gate. All TRI staffers, I hope you're also hearing that as well, because that's the message we have to give people. Anyway, back to our story. Colin found when he was working with his community trading crypto that quite often it's not a good idea to chase either an up or down market. And I suppose in an up market, it's the same sort of thing. Actually, probably this might even be a good example. Let's see. Does it go that way? No, I guess I have to reverse it. Hey, there we go. Okay, this is probably a good one. If the market was, of course, continuing to work its way higher, I like to use these sort of squiggly lines, makes it easier. So, rallying up top, we often suggest that it's not a good idea to chase price. So maybe you wake up and you're like, oh my God, look at this thing. It's just racing higher. I want to buy. But you notice market pulled back into 38.2 to 50% level sort of area. Does it actually put in a buy? That's your trading plan. That's up to you. But it's a good example where don't chase, just wait for the pullback. And then if you want to play, fine. This particular case, we actually lost the pump chaser zone. And actually, I think Bitcoin itself even did sort of the same sort of thing. We pulled back into 38.2s, rallied away, and puked out. And now, of course, you got yourself a big old bear. So the same thing works over here. That previous rally peak, you could take this peak off of this high if you really wanted to. It's not that big of a deal. But you can basically see where 38.2 to 50% is. So even something like this, I mean, my rally expectations would be something along those lines. So there's the key reversal signal. Probably as a gnarly old time trader, I'd want to be long the key reversal level. I might just give the pattern the whole sort of down to the break of that doji, looking for a 50% bounce, and oh, what a surprise, 2.72 risk reward. And that's what we kind of want to focus in on. Really want to try and take trades that produce at least 2 to 1 risk reward. And maybe avoid the ones that are like 5, 6, 7, 8 to 1 kind of idea. Because usually if you have that crazy of a profit objective, usually those trade ideas don't work. Anyway, so we're seeing this all over the place. Now, the interesting thing about this one, and here's a good example where the Collins pump chaser zone, it worked as sort of an initial sort of test, but it broke. And so really the way I like to look at this, and kind of what I was telling you earlier, institutions buy down markets, public buys up markets, and I actually like to use this concept called the reload zone to try and help me see where institutional players might be interested. For instance, I worked with a gentleman who is a consummate futures trader, and the guy's he's a pro of pros. He used to buy the 61.8 fib religiously. I mean, literally religiously. So you can see there's a great example right on the open, tag 61.8, ding, 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 ding. And he gets filled here. And of course, he knocks the cover off the ball. That's just the way it goes. And, really, I'm not even, and it's really cool. Like some of my students, like we have one gentleman who does the Wednesday crypto show with me. He bought into this idea of 61.8s. And he loves it. It's all he trades. Is that, hey, if it's 61.8, I'm Mountain Man. That's who I am. I happen to live in the mountains of Romania. Screw the mountains of Colorado. They suck. Anyway, point being, Paul is now our mountain man of Romania, and he trades 61.8s religiously. But that's not the point of this. The point is, and actually this one, I don't even have a character icon. I just like to call it the line in the sand, the lits. So the point here is that this is where, if institutions are going to be buyers, this is where in green boxes, institutions are going to be buyers. Now, quite often what I'm finding of late is that actually a lot of institutional players are playing this 88.6 as well. So you can see, in fact, here's a great example where this market had to go all the way down to 88.6 level to eventually find its bottom, and that's actually where the key reversal fired. The point of all this conversation is when I am at or below reload zones, or just make it really simple, color the boxes on your screen. If I am at or below green boxes, do I want to be aggressively shorting? Is that such a good idea? I don't think so. Really don't. I think you end up more heartache than benefit over the long run. It's just a weird thing about this trading life. And then conversely, the sad thing, of course, public always buys the top, right? Blah, blah, blah. But if I redraw this and then I draw reload zones, you can actually see exactly where we're supposed to be either selling or shorting. And usually I like to color these boxes red, right? Sell, red, down, losing money. Same thing here. Do I really want to be buying the asset if we get up into this area? Watch what happens when I do this study just off of this range. Remember from Paul's mountain man level there. He gets filled here, and look at what happens. Rum, 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 rum. Do I really want to be selling now that we're up in here? What did I say? Selling? Let's flip that around. There's Paul buying there like a badass mother, you know what? Do I want to be buying now that we're getting up into red boxes and above red boxes? I don't know. I think it's kind of asking for trouble. So sure enough, red boxes, down we go. So I'm seeing a lot of assets that are in green boxes like this. And also too, we talk about correlation. Seeing a lot of tech stocks that look like crypto stocks, that look like tech stocks, that look like crypto stocks. I mean, it's incredible, the similarities. I don't know whether you guys have watched of late, but I've been a little bit bullish of this Ethereum recently. I guess we can do Tether, that's fine. First and foremost, how ironic. I mean, we got 40 people watching this video, but, Brian's such a weirdo. I mean, I suppose after I die, maybe there'll be hundreds of thousands of views of these videos. I don't know. But I actually, it may be. I love going and surfing through the tweets, and I couldn't believe some of the tweets. Like somebody retweeted an Ethereum chart that I put out recently, going, "Gee whiz, this looks uppy." And he was talking to some other guy, and he's like, "Yeah, you're a pretty smart guy, but do you really want to take the opposite trade of this guy?" Which I thought was, that's kind of interesting. This guy being this Brian Beamish guy, which I thought was kind of fascinating. But, it's the same logic. I don't know whether buying Ethereum we're going to make a ton of money here or not. I mean, I just don't know. I mean, does anybody know? I don't think anybody has a crystal ball. But there is the sickness low. Shouldn't we debate mortgaging our kids' future? Shut the fuck up. And this is a fascinating commentary of this world. People are actually sending me messages. What's that reference to? I haven't got a clue what you're talking about, too. And I just take it for granted that everybody knows this stuff. Like they watch the market religiously like we do at TRI, and every damn politician that says anything, we commit it to memory. So, but anyway. But here we are. what did Brian say about green boxes? Does Brian really want to get aggressively bearish at or near green boxes? Not really. I don't know whether, well, I mean, I wouldn't be that adamant, but okay, Josh. Uh, I, I, I can't, I mean, like I said, nobody knows the future. Anybody that tells you, yes, this asset's going up, or, no, this asset is guaranteed to go down, that in itself is a warning. You should go, huh. It's kind of the whole Luna thing, right? I would constantly tell people, if something seems too good to be true, the banksters and the Fed, like the European banksters, are actually charging you fees to keep your money in the bank. The Americans are just going to simply not pay you any interest at all to keep your money in the bank. And then somebody over there in that crazy DeFi world is saying, hey, we're going to give you a 15 to 20% compounded return on your money. And of course, then some of these crazy numbers, 10,000% return. Look at me, I'm fucking the shit. And all that kind of craziness. You have to sit there and go, if something seems a little too good to be true, it probably is. Well, if anything, I start every single conversation with, I don't know what the hell's going to happen in the future. All I'm doing is just playing the statistical odds. Statistical odds to me say do not short at or below green boxes. Is it a buy at or green boxes? Well, sometimes the damn market can sit down here forever and it just does nothing. But the one thing I can absolutely guarantee you is you are not coming in and buying a fluffy, overbought, dangerous, like literally, can you see that this asset, I mean, what's the percentage loss here? Anybody that came in and bought this asset when people were saying technical analysis doesn't matter, just buy, use my referral code. This is the most exciting thing that's happened since yesterday. How much have we dropped? That's it. You've lost, even where we are now, you've lost 70%. That's where most people, and that's just off of this number here. I mean, from the peak, right up at the top, down, 72%, whatever. Even, take this peak here. I bought into that nonsense, down 65%. Those are the people that actually get beat up the most. So, again, and what I actually teach in my education programs is, if you don't want to overthink this stuff, here's a really cool way of looking at the market where I'm not going to overthink this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to say, I like the Bitcoin story. I like the idea of this network. I like the idea that the network itself is just leveraging the internet. To all intents and purposes, buying Bitcoin is basically buying internet money. Not magic internet money, but internet money. Anyway, so this is simply looking at the market from, if this study is red, then it means that the network is stressed out. And, we never see it of late, but when this study is green, it actually means that the network is under stressed and it's actually, probably, underutilized. I don't know whether this is necessarily a buy or not, but what I do notice is that every time this study seems to get down into this sort of, under 100 kind of reading on this NVT, we start putting in some sort of bottoms. Now, notice in 2018, we did get down below here, and it was a bit of a trap. There was one more FU. Now, my warning that this trade, that whatever we do on ETH, and I went and bought a whack of it at like $1,000. This is Bitcoin, but in essence, I think it's the same logic for both of them. My hunch is that by time this actually starts spitting out red again on the NVT study, it's time for us to hop off whatever stuff we picked up here in this summer bottom. And my hunch is this could probably jump up pretty darn quickly. I guess this one took a while to get back into red, but you can see how quickly this got back into red. This was out of red and then quickly got back into red. I don't know how this is going to go getting back into red, but my hunch is once we hit this red, then whatever this trade is that we're sort of hunting right now in the market, it's probably done. So, but it's a nice contrarian way of looking at the market, and it has nothing to do with price. It has everything to do with just how stressed out is the network. And I like this kind of thinking because this is, I mean, put away all the social media nonsense. Put away all the this time it's different nonsense. But the problem here is you have to have the discipline not to get sucked into all the circle jerk when this thing goes red. That's when you have to say, look at, I'm a professional, I'm a contrarian. Everybody else out there is rah bullish. Great. I'm already long from down here. So if I'm spoon feeding, selling halves on doubles, great. I've already got a whole bunch, and I'm not going to be buying any more up top. And I'm just going to be spoon feeding as we work our way higher. But this kind of study now, I think, is saying it's Nanny Nibbles time. It's Nanny Nibbles time. It's Nanny Nibbles time. Okay, what I wanted to show you was, I don't know what the hell it is. I guess this is the Ethereum one. It's the same. I mean, we can look at the Bitcoin chart. It's kind of the same. And I wouldn't be surprised. Actually, here's another really cool thing that sort of suggests that maybe Ethereum can outperform here in the short term is the dominance. Notice this was starting to perk up. Hello, look at what we got there. So this has been a fun study, and actually the same guy who was Mr. Colin Pump Chaser in Dump Chaser Zone, I think he's the same guy that sort of clued me into this. This is a really fun study. You can see as we broke here back, I guess, June 12th. Actually, the alts have actually been doing pretty good here, and we continually are making structural moves that are in the alts favor, not in Bitcoin's favor. So I don't know when this thing bottoms out. You can see, when it bottoms, this will be the end of alt season, and Bitcoin takes over. And my hunch is that at that point, I mean, we've got a little bit of weakness here, but this thing, cranking higher here. Beautiful. I mean, look at the size of that. You want to see it? Like, this is so cool. And this is the treat that the universe gave me for doing all of this free content for you guys. I can pretty much tell you almost exactly where I think this thing's going. And my prognostication in the short term is the magic crystal ball says, where are you, magic crystal ball? Boom. Hello. There you go. 1,700 bananas. Don't know whether I've got that. Oh, no. Check that. Let's see. We might go a little higher. 1,712 bananas. Right on. So, I mean, when I see a W like that, oh boy, because this was a hell of a battle here last week. And also, too, this, like when they, this part of the W, that was pretty well defined. And they came down, they had the green light. They could have broken these kids' hearts like no tomorrow. And you can see they were pushing. And what was fascinating about this low was this was the day of the big, ugly June CPI print. And everybody and their brother was shitting their pants. Oh my God, it's going to be the end of the world. Ah! Now, who can tell me what actually happened here in the market? How does this go? You, something, the rumor, something, the news. And I'll tell you, man, if you're here to try and learn something about trading and You know, I don't want to get shilled into buying your fucking product, you goddamn capitalist bastard. I want some information. I want you to make this whole free experience on the interneting work, Brian, because we're trying to make this a positive difference in this world. Well, there you fucking go. It's right in your faces. There's your lesson for the day. Everybody and their brother. I even remember Julian a week or two ago going, oh my God, the goddamn CPI report. It's going to be the end of the world. But do you see this? And actually, I think our level oneers, our current level oneers, you'll be doing this concept in about, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 weeks. Liquidity events. I think the whole world got suckered into panicking into that CPI print. And the interesting thing about that, and I mean, the proof of the pudding's in the proof of the, how does it go? Proof of the pudding is in the eating, right? I mean, you tell me if you had, and how does this go? Look at that. You guys got it all wrong. Look at that. You all got it wrong. That's incredible. It should go, sell the rumor. So maybe you are going to learn something new here today. And then buy the news. And actually, you know what's interesting? In the spring, early summer of 2014, I think Bitcoin did exactly the same thing too. And that was on the whole China ban bullshit. China was going to ban Bitcoin. China ban, China ban. Look at that. EMA's going, calm down, bro. That's hilarious. Am I getting a little too excited here? All right. Anyway, the point being, this is good learning information. And I guess, like, if you are part of I gotta stop looking at that YouTube. If you are part of the TRI community, then you should know exactly why this market actually pivoted and started heading up. So I'd be curious. Obviously, you guys in the Hangout here are part of the community. Why do you think, hint, 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 we've talked about this for the past 6 fucking months now. Why do you think market, you know, first off, the initial reaction for the CPI number, it was a horrible number. Don't get me wrong. It was horrible. But why do you think price dumped, stopped dumping, and then actually turned around and started face ripping up here? So something happened here, right? So you know, the I mean, the interesting thing with the decennial report is that the cause or is that the effect? I'm not quite sure. So what's the cause? Why did, and this, you know, along with almost every other tech assets, exact same thing. You know, like I said, the correlation between crypto and the stock market now is highly, highly correlated. So now, ironically enough, I don't even need to do a video on the NASDAQ anymore. It's the exact same thing as Ethereum. In fact, I wouldn't even be surprised that Bitcoin and Ethereum are actually bigger than the NASDAQ by the end of all this. But that's another conversation for another day. So the point here is why. Hey, very good. There's an institutional fingerprint. You nailed that. That is perfect. So can you see how they put the original double bottom in down here? Right in a fucking reload zone? I mean, absolutely textbook. And this dump, which of course broke these lows, do you think that that went and liquidated a whole bunch of weak stop losses? Absolutely. I mean, this was textbook. Absolutely textbook. And then talk about an institutional fingerprint. Hey, if you've ever seen one, the bar that made the low, press the preceding bar. There is your fingerprint. You know exactly where the institutions are long. So that's a really, really good comment there, Afghan Crypto. And it shows that you're paying attention. That's smart. So, yeah, that is the institutional fingerprint if there ever was one. In fact, we should probably even just tweet that out. The point here is, why do you think the market stopped going down here and actually went up? And I would make the argument, like I've sort of been barking at you guys for the past 6-8 months now. And the beauty part about this, people, is that the message from TRI is so nice and it's crisp. I don't know what the professional term for crisp is, but if you join TRI, you get this beautiful content just hand delivered to you in our blog. Yes. So that, again, that's, we talk about cause and effect there, Eddie. What I'm trying to convey here is, why did this turn happen? What did we say was Mr. Williams's biggest thing, that he's like, we got to see this for this market to turn? And this is the whole point that we've been sort of making all along here. And that is that, in actual fact, again, awesome content from TRIers. You don't see this anywhere else on the damn interwebbing. I mean, literally, I'm actually really surprised. Why aren't more fucking clowns on? Like, I mean, first and foremost, if you had a tool that actually could tell you what's going to happen in the future, wouldn't that be valuable? Like, if you're going to go on CNBC and you want to shill your advisory service, and you want to shill what an awesome stock picker you are, and of course everybody's going to beat a path to your door, wouldn't you want to use the tools, and wouldn't you want to talk about the stuff that actually gives you usable information in the marketplace? I don't see anybody talking about something like this relationship you want to see on the screen right now, and yet this is incredibly valuable. This, in essence, this study told you, you want to be worried about inflation, you need to be worried right here. And when did that happen? That happened this summer, after all of the right here is, shouldn't we debate mortgaging our kids' future? Or actually, maybe, yeah, I think that was right there, wasn't it? Yeah, February, March, April of 2000. That was, so let's, we're going through massive deflation because they're basically shutting everything down, right? The whole damn economy's collapsing. So the whole market collapses, and then they go, well, we better see, there's March 2020. That's right when that happened, right? March, April. Oh, we better throw tons and tons of money at this market. And the guy goes, and like I said, somebody on the internet, he's going like, what are you talking about when you make that reference, Brian? So people that are watching these videos, and, especially if you go on YouTube and you listen to the quote unquote influencers, I haven't got a fucking clue what's going on with the economy. The only guy who knows is fucking Stanley Druckenmiller. And that guy, I swear, man, is smart as a whip. Anyway, point of the matter is, if you use this chart, you can see what the hell is going on. David, if my voice goes a little higher, then I'm getting pretty excited. When I start imitating the Queen, then Brian's in the zone. You naughty boy. I'm sure all my neighbors are like, oh, God damn it, that guy's going off again. She would never say that, though, eh? Okay. Anyway, if you wanted an indicator to tell you when inflation is a problem, hit the like button, subscribe, ring our bell, get notified, all that kind of fun stuff while you're at it. This was absolutely perfect. And the irony of it all, of course, is that, when the health crisis happened, we were falling off a cliff there. So what does the Fed do? Fed takes interest rates to zero. Puke out, right? Of course, that's going to make inflation go crazy. I mean, that's just common sense. You take short-term interest rates to zero, and oh my goodness, all hell's going to break loose. And sure enough, all hell broke loose. Then, what letter of the alphabet? And really, the way you can look at this is, this letter of the alphabet equals inflation. This letter of the alphabet, actually, that's not a very good one. Let's try that again. up, down equals deflation. I even heard a guy on the fucking internet today, these social medias that really have no idea what's going on. The guy I heard him today, I couldn't believe it. He goes, well, I think actually we're going to go through more inflation, but we could also go through deflation too. It's like, what? What are you saying, you stupid fool? You don't even know what you're talking about. I mean, if you're going to make a shill and you're going to be a social influencer, then fucking, have a backbone and have some conviction and at least talk. This is what pisses you off about all of this, is that even the people that are put in charge of these economies, I mean, my country's finance minister has no experience in the financial services industry. None. Zero. She says the reason why Canadian housing prices is going up as much as it is because Canada is such a popular country and everybody wants to move here. You have got to be kidding me. I mean, you can't write this stuff any better. Anyway, so point here is, and we do this at length on the site. We've gone through a bunch of sort of key commodities that go into sort of the inflation mix, and a lot of them actually topped out there about a month or so ago. I don't necessarily think that we go straight down, from here, but I definitely think that there's an old adage in the market that says don't fight the Fed. So in this particular example, we had the Fed here basically throwing bags of money at the market. Their quantitative easing program was going absolutely haywire. And in that environment, all of the socialists just went crazy. MMT people, the people that want to actually have the Fed go in and manipulate the economy to generate desired political outcomes, i.e. put the oil business out of business. And frankly speaking, I don't think the Fed gives a crap about what part of the market's doing well or not. The only thing that they care about is they just want to make sure the damn game keeps going. And of course, as long as the game keeps going, then the people who run the game keep making tons and tons of profits, aka the bankers. So that's the only motivation that they have. No great show. All right. I'm not quite sure where you're going with that, David, but okay. So, I mean, W's are inflationary. So back in April, May, June, July, and especially when we got into September, October, November of 2020, you should have all looked at this, including myself, and went, guess what, boys and girls? The days of low inflation and low interest rates and us not worrying about the cost of money, those days are over. And they were. The only problem is when this was spitting up that signal and you tried to tell people that, hey, we got to worry about inflation now, everybody laughs at you. Well, and interestingly enough, we got through, last sort of spring, and you can see how the market tried to M out, didn't quite, We made a new high here, so a little bit suspicious. We call that a megaphone. And if anything, I actually think that this megaphone is still kind of in play right now. So I think you can go here to here, and there's your megaphone. In fact, you'd say that was the third tag there. And then we go here to here, and I don't know whether we're done here or not. We might be. It's tough to say. But, just sort of, just using clothesline, simply put, this thing might work its way all the way back down here, but you can clearly see we have a major, major battle coming up sort of in here. So what I think actually happens here is you can, and these are the tweets that I've been putting out here recently, is that I think I can, First and foremost, we all listened to Mr. Williams back in January. Great reason to follow TRI closely. We follow the market like very, very closely. Every single day we are talking markets, and I think we were absolutely on top of this. And interestingly enough, Mr. Williams actually did another update of his report about halfway through the year. I don't know whether, I think maybe that's what this one was. To all intents and purposes, I think it was basically the same outcome. The decennial sort of what do years that end in twos look like in the stock market. First part of this year was just going to be crap. And then mysteriously, we were going to put in some sort of bottom. We were going to rally away. It looks to me like in the fall, we're going to have a serious smackdown that's going to bring prices right back down to our original bottom here that we're seeing probably being put in right now. And then, and I think this is sort of through the US election, we're actually going to rally into the end of the year. And Mr. Williams specifically said that he was looking for some sort of indication that inflationary pressures had peaked. And what I thought was really interesting about this is you can see it's about middle of the study. So if you think sort of May, June, July, Mr. Powell, in 2 or 3 of his testimonies heading into this event, said that the worst year-over-year inflation comparisons were going to be through May and June. And I thought it was interesting, bringing this all back full circle, that why did the market bottom here, July 13th, and then just take off like a rocket? And not only take off like a rocket, but we got a big old honking W's coming in here, which PS are bullish. Why did this happen when everybody and their brother was saying it's the end of the world, it's the end of the world? And Josh just gave away my punchline. Yeah, it's not fair, man. I swear, you guys, I was building up this whole damn thing for that. Anyway, so what I think happened was, of course, everybody and their brother is like, oh my God, it's the end of the world, inflation. I mean, God, you turn on. I got into the elevator there the other day, and the people in the elevator, I don't even know them. They're going, oh, inflation, prices at the grocery store, inflation, inflation. When I mean, it's just like fucking Bitcoin, people. When you go to the street and you hear somebody you haven't got a fucking clue they don't know anything about it, but they're telling you to buy fucking Bitcoin, that's the time to sell. It is. So ironically, yeah, there you go. Josh says, when my 70-year-old dad called me about Bitcoin, I sold. All right. So anyway, the point being that this reversal, proof of the pudding's in the eating. I mean, look at what price did. Don't kid yourself here. Price is moving up. This happened literally right on the news date. I mean, literally, you could not have timed it any better. It's quite remarkable, really. I don't know whether we need to go in and show you, but oh well, just for posterity. No, not that one. This one. Calendar. I guess it was last week, eh? Let's go previous week. I think it was on the 15th, wasn't it? Which date was it? Okay, now I'm lost. Man, I sure got a head of steam up there, right? Okay, what was that date? That was 13th. Oh, that's fine. 13th. So the key here is, right, here's our inflation numbers. The key that you have to take away from this is this was reported in July, but it was actually the June data. So again, along the lines of Mr. Powell or Chair Powell, his warnings that the worst inflation numbers were going to be through that May-June comparison window, I do believe that that was about the worst that we'll probably have. Now, of course, like I said, the whole public is totally enamored by inflation. But I don't like to listen to the public, and I certainly don't like to listen to politicians. I do find it interesting that Mr. Nancy here actually went and bought a bunch of equity. Now, if inflation was still a major problem, we would not expect to see equity move up. And I don't care what part of the market you're in. And then, to add insult to injury, we're getting I don't know whether you and the public who are watching this understand, but this is what's called a key reversal. And it's actually a full bar that opens up below the two previous sessions and closes above the two previous sessions highs. That is a very bullish sign. And this is, Taiwan, of course, Taiwan Semiconductor. I think that's the symbol is TSM, isn't it? I think this is it, but I'm not positive. No, okay, that's not what I'm looking for. I guess I'll have to go back to Trading View. Let's go. We can do here. So Taiwan Semiconductor. There we go. All right. Yeah, I don't really like to look at that. I mean, it's gappier than hell. So it means, and the interesting thing is you can see, look at the size of this hole right here, eh? It's just huge. At some point, the markets want to go back and fill that in. Anybody want to be a smarty smart? Tell the good people on YouTube what the percentage time those gaps get filled in is. It's actually pretty high. But you also notice that they have a gap down here. So I wouldn't be surprised. Here's a good example where, we probably do things like, reload zones, all that kind of stuff. And 38.2 is basically against previous structural fail level. So that kind of makes sense too. You can see how I was thinking that maybe we had a bullish trend continuation pattern here. The fact that they took it to a new low there was a little concerning, and as a result, sure enough, it crapped out. But the point here is dead cat bounce, 38.2 to 50%. This Collins dump chaser zone kind of idea. That, I think, is a very realistic objective through this latter part of the summer. And interesting, if things really get going, you could see a nice little spike right up. And of course, good old mountain man, Paul's going to be shorting this level right there like a badass. And of course, there's a big old gap there, and gaps get filled in about 91% of the time. Hey, thank you, TRIers on YouTube. Thank you for answering that. So anyway. So as an example, could you see a bounce there? I think so. Is it a new bull market? Well, considering we got this big honking M staring us in the face, I don't think so. But could we see some rally action here? I think so. So it's just interesting, so we were mentioning that with regard to NVIDIA. Same thing on NVIDIA. I don't really, you can see there's a W coming in here, and Brian, of course, loves his Ws. You can even see this is a bullish engulfing bar. It's a candle body engulfing bar. It didn't actually engulf the whole action, but nonetheless, it is a bullish signal. The body engulfing bar for candlestick aficionados. And you can also see that if we break through this high, well, that will be a W. And, same thing as that Taiwan Semiconductor. You can do the same logic here. So something like that. 38.2s. Can you start to see confluence? Right? Because remember, that's what I really like as a trade idea is this idea of confluence, right? We always want to start out with location. Location should always be our number one reason to justify a trade. And you might even argue that you could have looked at this 3 or 4 months ago and said, well, Brian, you said that these gaps like to get filled in, so I'm going to place my buy orders down at these gaps, down at this original institutional fingerprint. Thank you, Afghan crypto. Technically, that's one there. And look at that. Would that have been a sick fill? Would you have been happy with those fills? Fuck me. Eh? Look at that. I mean, that's boss trading. Also, too, what do you think the odds are? And this is a pretty nice base. So why don't we do a fib off of here? We'll go boobity boo. And what a surprise. Those gap fills are right on an 88.6. Brian in his reload zone. You would say, hey, here's a good example. Do we really want to get too uber bearish here? I think if anything, if you start shorting down in here, you could easily have the market snap back right in your face here. Obviously, semiconductor chip shortage, all that kind of stuff is dominating the conversation. I wouldn't even call this a new bull. I would just simply call this a dead cat bounce rally. Is there money to be made on dead cat bounces? Sure. I mean, yeah, profit's a profit. But I don't know whether this is the kind of like buy and hold and just forget about it. My hunch is we have our rally. If we're lucky, we can get up into here. But I have a feeling this trend line will probably stop us at these gaps. And my hunch is we're probably going to actually just do like a shoulder, neckline, head. So rally back to the neckline. And then our $64,000 question is, do we W out in here on the other side of this trend line? And I hate when this happens because now it'll bang into this. We get this target hit, and then we have to ask the same question. Now that we've crossed this trend line, can we get a W to actually come in to justify this being a bull? So this is a million miles away from it being a buy. This is nothing more than dead cat bounce within a bear trend. But I mean, the weird thing is even from here, let's say we get a rally back to 38.2s. You know that the talking heads are going to spin this. NVIDIA's rallied 40% over the past 3 months. Are you missing the bull market? You must be, and you must have a terrible financial advisor, blah, 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 blah. So you can already sort of see the shill coming in. But what I would just simply say is it's in the process of trying to find its bottom. I mean, we've done this so often in crypto. A lot of crypto stocks look almost exactly the same. In fact, I even put out a tweet recently just saying the same sort of thing. These crypto stocks sure look washed out. I mean, look at that. Here's the image. So there's all your bases, and you can see them all basing out respectively, and they all went absolutely crazy. Then they, up here, of course, technical analysis doesn't matter. That fucking MicroStrategies guy. How does that guy get to manage billions of dollars? And here's Brian talking to 54 people. It doesn't make any sense to me. What the fuck is God's plan? I mean, it does not make any sense because every single one of these people were all like fucking man. We're all going to get rich. They do tons of equity financings. They raise millions, billions of dollars. They're driving their fucking Lambos. And yet every single one of them telling people to buy up here was wrong. And they're all fucking dying 1,000 deaths here. How does this fucking world work? I don't get it. The one thing I will say absolutely is we don't have to worry about getting sued. Galaxy's in here. Do you see that? GLXY. It's the yellow one. So there's Galaxy. There's Novogratz there. Look at him. He's died 1,000 deaths. So there you go, BM. Can you see Galaxy on here? He's in yellow. Now, just like we said with that semiconductor stock, right? The NVIDIA. It's the same conversation. Can you see the same chart? It's almost identical. It's the same thing. Interesting little W's trying to come down in and really, throwing the baby out with the bathwater kind of market. Is this a new bull market yet? No, I don't think so. Is this a market that could potentially have a dead cat bounce and produce some half decent little trade results? You know, this is exactly the same chart as all those tech stocks. It's identical, right? This now we're going back to, now this is Ethereum futures. Man, Brian's all over the place. Look at this beautiful setup. That's a 5-to-1 on just nothing more than just a 50% bounce here. 5-to-1 risk reward. That's almost too much. That's a little scary. But it's interesting because we have one gentleman who's just, there's so many different ways to trade effectively. And technical analysis, I mean, God, have you ever looked at how many indicators there are on a play? Look at this. I mean, it goes on and on and on and on. Look at all these damn indicators. This is all of my script. Let's go indicators here, right? You have to actually create favorite indicators because there's just so many of them. I mean, I don't even know. How do you get like the out of the box? Is it technical like this, maybe? Anyway, I mean, look how many indicators are. I mean, it just goes on and on. What I often tell people is pick an indicator that you like and really get to know how that indicator works. Like I worked with Williams percentage R so much over like 10-20 year period that I actually ended up altering the Williams percentage R to give me a signal that I specifically wanted. That's how much I worked with this indicator. Or like the MACD. I don't actually even like using the MACD out of the box. I use the histogram of the MACD, but this is religion to me. Again, get to know your indicators like really, really well. I sure hope you're a woman, Tomo. That if you're a man, that doesn't come across well. Just kidding. But if you're a houseplant, it comes across even worse, right? Anyway. So anyway, the point of the matter here is there's a million different ways to skin this cat. A million. And one particular trade methodology that's a great trade location tool, and actually I even put a tweet out to that effect recently, is harmonics. And I think that there are a lot of chart patterns that look like this right now, especially in crypto, but across the stock market, decennial report, January barometer, election year. Go and read our blog if you want to understand what I'm talking about. Brilliant work, Josh. Value added. This TRI site, I swear, it should be a fucking Bible for everybody in the world, including the CNBC people. Like, seriously, we should do a campaign where we should go to CNBC and say, excuse me, can you go to Josh's blog and read about what we're looking at TRI? And it might help you see the market clearly. Like, honestly, like, that's how good this analysis is. It is better. The people at CNBC should be reading our blog. They should be subscribing to our dashboard because this is the shit. This is telling you exactly what's happening in the market, right? They should be using things like the TIPS, TLT, TIPS spread. So maybe we should make a campaign once a week. A TRIer should go on CNBC and say, why don't you pop on over to the site and talk to Brian? Maybe he'll help you understand what's going on in this world. Because I'll tell you, they don't. Don't say that. All right. Moving on. Anyway, the point of the matter here is I think you can make the case that, number one, we're pretty darn cheap in the marketplace. And number two, I think there's a bit of anecdotal evidence calling for not only a rally in crypto, but also general risk. I think there's room for a bit of rally. I don't think it's a new bull market, but I think there is room for a bit of a rally here. So anyway, fingers crossed. We'll see how that goes. Okay, so what I'm supposed to be doing here today is answering specific questions for the level oneers in our education program. I got the impression it was a pretty light week, but is that the 17th? Is that where we are? Yeah, it is. All right. Oh, actually, so there's a bit of work here to do. All right, so we'll do this, and I will head off and try and give Liam an awesome afternoon. And Chris, is there anything on your sheet that I asked you to remind me to talk about in this show that I don't want to forget? Okay. I'm not quite sure how to best approach the whole Portugal meetup sort of public shill. And that's not even really the right word because we're not really selling anything. Josh, how do you think should we have like a page on the website for this? Meet us in Portugal, 16th through 17th Nazaré. There you go. All right, done. Josh himself, I don't know whether you were here earlier, but I pointed out that you put together this really cool logo. And I don't know whether we really want to advertise it. What I'm just going to simply say is if you're part of the TRI family, you're welcome to come. We'd love to see you. I think we have about 30 people now already booked rooms for the meetup itself, so it should be pretty darn busy. And then we should have a bunch of people that sort of, get hotel rooms and stuff around. Brian was referring to the one next year. Okay, I'm not quite sure what we're talking about there. Anyway, the point being that is there anything that we should do to help people if they want to learn more about the meetup? I don't know. I tell you what, Josh, we still have a couple months ahead of this event, so I'll just leave it in your hands. However you want to market this thing to make it most effective, it's up to you, okay? There you go. That takes care of that nice and easy. Okay, on to the questions. So questions. Number one, hi. Following psycho theory, some historical cycles are 80 years in length. Yeah, there's a bunch of them. Finance trader Gann mentions a 90-year cycle as well. Yep. Following your teachings, Brian's pivotal events in the West occurred 1776. It's close. You know what I think it is? And actually you can even count backwards because I think it goes 2022, 2023, I think are identical to 1942 and 1943. I think they're literally identical. What's scary here is how bad does this war stuff get? I have a funny feeling that this is the prelude to the big event, but the big event war-wise actually starts 2030. And I think that the groundwork for that main shoot 'em out starts in 2027. And I think that is all around, I think Mr. Trump is going to try and get reelected 2024. And then in his second presidential re-election bid, and I'm not exactly sure. When I was a kid, I remember there was a rule that said the U.S. president could not serve more than 2 back-to-back terms. So I'm not even quite sure what the actual rule is. If you serve 1 term, then miss a term, then get reelected, can you get reelected again? And I think that that's the whole debate around how 2027, 2028 goes, is around Mr. Trump basically saying he's going to stick around for a second term. And of course, everybody's going to say, no, you're not legally allowed to. And then it's going to be a big fight as to what's legal and what isn't. And then it's going to be like, well, we're going to put the presidential election on hold until we figure this out. And then people are going to be like, oh, you can't do that. Then the whole damn thing fucking unwinds. So, yeah, well, and that's the thing. Like Roosevelt, he had 3 terms. And after Roosevelt died, there was a concerted effort not to let that happen again. But we'll cross that road when we come to it. Right now, I get the impression that this year, if I was going to make a historical comparison, and this is the really cool thing, is the way that I would do this is I would say 2020, 2022, 23, I think the similarities, it goes 1942, 43, and then the cycle before that, I think we go 1862 to 1863. And then if we go the cycle before that, we go 1782 to 1783. And the interesting thing about 1782-83 was this is actually when the British officially sort of said that they lost the war. And they were going to start making plans for an independent United States. So I do think that that's the way that the cycle pattern goes. And then the one before that, which is interesting, 1702 to 03. Well, what's fascinating about this cycle was this was the Russian war with the King of Sweden. And the King of Sweden was the shit for a very, very long time. And the Russians knocked them down to size. So it's kind of interesting how Russia's worked its way back into the world history here. I think you could make the argument that Russia is actually involved in a lot of these pivots. So that's the impression that I get, that the more I study this, the more I see that this is, I think, the actual cycle pattern. Now, this is the money cycle. And kind of as you pointed out, there is a bunch of different cycles all going on here, right? The way that I would look at this is like this is the money cycle. And I think it's based on that Jupiter-Saturn cross kind of idea. But there's also, at the same time, there's also things like the generational cycle. And I think that the generational cycle is that 35-year cycle that I talked to you guys about. You could call the generational cycle that fear-greed cycle. And that is, I think, believe it or not, we just had a pivot, 2017, 18. So if we work backwards from that, and I think that the generational cycle is 35 years in duration, or basically 17 and a half years each side. And the previous one was 1999 to 2000. Then the one before that was 1982, 83. And you can just work backwards. And this is the one that I teach you about this on the site with regard to sort of stock market preference towards hard assets versus soft assets. There's also the health cycle. So like the virus. We won't name names, but there was also the Spanish flu from when last century, and if I'm not mistaken, there was a really, really bad sickness in the 1820s and 1830s that wiped out a huge portion of the European population. And then, of course, back 16th, 15th, 14th century plagues and all that. I don't actually have the specific dates for those. There's also the agricultural cycle, so that there's the water cycle. I think the Dust Bowls in the Midwest in the Great Depression. We could be seeing full circle that, because I find it fascinating. Any of you guys been watching Lake Mead? Lake Mead, I think, is a remarkable testament where basically that lake was man-made by the creation of the Hoover Dam. And what's fascinating was that there was actually an old West town at the very bottom of the lake that was founded in 1865, and now it's actually coming back to the surface. So I got a funny feeling that there is also a hydro cycle involved in this. And what's fascinating is we used to have one gentleman. In fact, I sent him a message on the site recently. He's basically disappeared over the past 2 or 3 months, which is kind of sad. It's one thing. The worst part about, I think, running this website, and I think all the CME boys, when I was at that prop firm trading on the CME, I think they all knew this, that when you go through a really nasty life event like I had to go through, the one thing that I was desperately seeking was friendship and camaraderie. And to a certain degree, I got a very positive reception from the crypto community about my skill set, and I misinterpreted that as friendship. And the one bad thing that all the CME boys warned me about was, you're going to go and save the world and you think you're going to make a positive difference, but at the end of the day, nobody's going to really listen. They aren't really going to remember you. And you're just going to wind up just driving yourself crazy going in circles. And I have to say, in the 8 years that I've been doing this website, I consider every single one of you that, come on TRI, and even, people that are regulars on the YouTube and the free pages, like our great Del Moody buddy. I actually consider you friends, and that's probably not a good thing. It's probably one of the reasons why actually I don't make as much money at this whole shill and this whole sort of social media experience, because I would prefer to think of you people as friends, and you don't fucking take advantage of friends. You don't sell friends products that are actually outright lies. Like these stupid idiots that are like, oh my God, this is the most incredible thing that happened. You got to use my referral code and get signed up and, take mortgages out on your houses and buy crypto now, or else you're going to miss out. You got to do it. You got to do it. And then, of course, the fucking market collapses. And, some of those people actually did really, really stupid financial decisions based on that shill. And are the people that shilled them, are they going to give them back gold watches and shit like that to try and help them out? Because they basically bankrupted themselves listening to their bad advice. So I don't give you those stupid over-the-top shills to make me fucking, Bitcoin millionaire nonsense crap. And gold-plated steak, all that kind of shit. And gold-plated steak is the same shit that goes down the sewer pipe at the end of the day than the non-gold-plated steak. Good point. So I don't know where I got off on this. And, okay. So I was originally talking about. So one guy that I actually considered a friend. Since this market has fallen apart, haven't heard a word from either of these people that I thought were actually really good friends. And they have literally just vanished. And even have money with these people, they've just literally just disappeared. And as soon as, like the whole fucking Danny thing happened and, Do Kwon nonsense, they just vanished. And that's the one thing I'm a sucker. And I'm a little disappointed in myself that I believe as much in these people. And I thought that they were friends, and I thought that they were people that cared, and they don't give a shit. So, oh well, that's the way it goes. Yeah. Interesting comments from the guys in the hangout here. Anyway. So there's one gentleman who I have an immense amount of respect for, this idea of, he was the one who first told me about Saturn-Pluto crosses, and there's going to be 6 different celestial events that were going to happen here, and how this is something that hasn't happened like in the past million years. So I hope you're doing well out there in the world. You know who you are. I sure miss you. Wouldn't mind if you could just touch base with me if you are watching this. And I miss you guys, but they just vanish. So sad. Anyway, back to our story. The point being, 6 different ones of these events. So yeah, we do have the money cycle. Yeah, we do have the generational cycle. We also probably have a hydro cycle. We have a sickness cycle. We have, unfortunately, you see that fucking asshole dickhead doofus over there in Eastern Europe going around murdering people at his leisure. We have a war cycle where these stupid human beings actually are perfectly fine with murdering other humans. What the fuck, Josh? I thought we were beyond this shit. When is it okay? Why is it okay for us to go back to a world where it's okay to murder other humans? Like, when did that become a thing again? I thought that was like that previously evolved society, and that we weren't because of nuclear weapons and stuff, we weren't going to have that kind of world anymore. Like, what the fucking fuck? So I don't know. There's a ton of these cycles all going on simultaneously. So I love what you've written up here. Like I said, if I was going to add my 2 cents, I like this this sort of pattern for the money cycle. And actually, this goes back even further, because what's sad about the money cycle is you can like literally see every 80 years they switch hegemony currencies, which is interesting, right? Because here we are, 2022, 2023. You can see, what came out after this event. Well, we had the Bretton Woods, which sort of set up the US dollar as the world hegemony. And that happened about 4 years after the event. 1862, 1863, of course, basically the Rothschilds wanted to break up the United States of America. They had armies in Canada ready to invade from the north. They had an army in Mexico ready to invade from the south. They had funded the Southerners with Gone with the Wind and all the Confederate bonds and stuff. So the Rothschilds had everything in place to destroy this thing called the United States of America, which of course got started the previous cycle, and this is what broke the Rothschilds' plan. Of course, right? The Bank of England was going to run the world. So you can literally see step by step by step through history how this money cycle plays itself out. And you can go back hell, if anything, all of us should understand the importance of why we have to get the banksters out of our society and out of control of money. The only problem is, who do you give the control to? And that's the danger, right? Like Soviet Union, you give the control of the money to the actual government, and they just go and fucking blow their wad on nuclear weapons and so many tanks. You can't shake a stick at them all, and they end up bankrupting themselves. So ironically enough, leaving the money system to the banksters, it's criminal. And of course, they fuck us royally century after century after century. But I guess it's one of those things where it's sort of like, well, it's the devil you know is a lot better than the devil you don't know. And what I do find interesting, and this is the peak to all of this, is that I started this adventure. I remember reading this email. I was on like some bulletin board or something, and this guy came from the future. And it was like year 2200 or 2300 or something like that. And people were asking, of course, what's life like in the future, all that kind of stuff. And he said there's a big nuclear war between now and then, which I think, frankly, is unavoidable now. He also said that at that point, on the other side of sort of society reestablishing itself, They actually relinquished a lot of the controls of society. They took them away from the humans and actually gave the controls to the computers, so that the computers, in essence, controlled money, not the banksters. So it isn't, I mean, like, I would make the argument that what you just saw in 2008 was literally a whole generations of wealth was transferred from the generation's pockets to the banking 1% elite of our society. Like, I remember there was one guy in particular that he boasted about, that he made $1 trillion in profit in that 2008 financial collapse. $1 trillion, one human being. So you can see the process of the transfer of the wealth happening if you look for the signs. You know, in January 2020, when they bid the market up like that before this mysterious sickness just happened to occur, there was huge, huge insider selling through the options markets, and all of the trades were all done completely off exchange, below board. Nobody in the public would have any word of any of that going on. And I pointed it out to all the TRIers. It was blatant, like literally trillions of dollars of wealth changing hands through that options expiry. And then what happened mysteriously in February, March of 2020? You know what happened. So it's like when the humans are left in control, it's a shit show. And all these damn humans do, just like that asshole in fucking Eastern Europe, is that we just murder and steal from each other. And yes, you're right there, BT. 9/11, perfect example. I don't think that that was an accident. How many major terrorist events did we have in the world after 9/11? All of a sudden now, ooh, war on terror. Well, why? Is terrorism rampant? No, we just had this one very choreographed terrorist event that caught everybody's attention, and now we can go spend trillions of dollars on made up wars, all just around this sort of made up thing. So you're absolutely right, BT. I'm not making an excuse that anybody in the West is any better. I think these humans themselves, just a disgusting species. Disgusting species. But anyway, it is what it is. So, point of the matter is, and I thought it was beautiful because basically, since I read this guy's message, it's been my life sort of message. But he basically said that, look, at that point in the 23rd century, they had come to learn that humanity is nothing more than the universe itself reaching consciousness. So it's such an incredibly powerful concept. And yet, as long as dickhead bankster fuckheads are basically impoverishing us, as long as Eastern European despots are running around murdering people in the tens of thousands for their own sort of personal gains, I mean, has anybody actually put a net worth on that dickhead? You know, as long as we're still living in this world, and I don't even want to go down the fucking rabbit hole of China and that mess with Winnie the Pooh, but as long as we're still living in this world where it's so utterly and completely dominated by this 1% ruling class that just literally their life is nothing, it's all about just stealing as much as they can from the other humans. As long as we're still trapped in this existence, we can't understand what it is to actually be what we are, to actually be alive and to appreciate that we are, we're the end result of this massive chemical reaction going on with this universe thing. And we're actually at the point where the universe, as a part of, we're all made of stardust, we actually can look and go, wow, we're alive. We can actually appreciate this thing, this evolution, this existence, but we're so trapped by these goddamn 1%. And it sounds to me like the only way out of this is there's got to be just some big ass fucking nuclear war that just hits the reset button. And then on the other side of that, we start from scratch. And we do things like we put supercomputers in charge, which of course is pretty dangerous unto itself. And I'm sure there's lots of people going, what? But I tell you, it seems, in my eyes, it seems to be the only way around this bankster fraud that has been going on since Jesus Christ's day. I mean, fuck, right in the Bible, it says that, the only guys that he was upset with are the fucking money changers. And I find it interesting that the Muslims, of course, they're actually starting to warm up to the idea of Bitcoin. Why? Well, I actually like the idea that and I don't know the correct phrase, so I'm probably going to get it totally wrong, but basically in their religion, lending money at interest is actually a religious crime. And that in itself actually would really solve a lot of problems. We had that situation back when the Catholic Church was dominating, but of course power corrupts and then the church becomes fucking absolutely insane. So, like I said, the guy from the future said, well, the only way we get around it is we got to have a big old nuclear war. And then on the other side of it, we put computers in control and they sort of, they allocate resources appropriately, probably use Bitcoin and the internet as it is in its ultimate form a couple hundred years from now. I'm not quite sure how the hell I got on this bent, but oh well, there you go. There's a nice crazy ass rant from the nutso Canadian guy who's probably going to get assassinated, right? Good thing we only got 40, 50 listeners. If we had 1,000 people listening to this, I'd have a fucking bullseye on my forehead by the end of the day, guaranteed. All right, blah 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 blah. So there's your answer to the first question. Only took 24 minutes. That's not so bad. Next question. Oh, hey, you got more here. These pivotal dates are accompanied by massive loss of lives. Oh, yeah, fuck me. Tell me about it. War, depression, possible virus. Fundamental question, please. If global powers succeed in resetting the system, what kind of assets, stocks, and companies are the winners during the reset, which may work out in the full during our days? Well, what's really interesting is whenever we really start to get serious about actual murdering, where do people usually run? And that really answers your question here. So when we get serious about murdering, where do people usually run and hide? If you can answer that question, then that's the answer to your question. I certainly hope not. We just want to quietly establish ourselves there. We don't want everybody and their brother there. Mind you, I think we're too late, eh, Eddie? Fuck me. Mind you, somebody posted, I think it was... I don't know who posted it, but there is another place that people are getting pretty excited about. So anyway, all right. Are you getting a commission on this sale? All right. What did I just say there? Oh yeah. So as history goes, people always bet on the winner. Which is an interesting commentary on the Rothschilds, because, the Rothschilds famously took over the Bank of England because they actually manipulated the market. They knew that the British won the war against Napoleon, but they acted like they lost the war against Napoleon, and they had the news ahead of everybody. Would you call that insider trading? Probably. They would just call it capitalism, and that's what you have to be careful about capitalism. You guys all love capitalism so much. But unfettered capitalism leads to things like do kwon. You really want to turn over capitalism, which, I might even argue that at the end of the Cold War, we basically have moved back into that kind of unfettered, Dickinsonian, probably going to get to the point of debtors' prisons. Notice how everybody and their brother is all obsessed about debt right now, and Nobody's going to forgive any debt like college debt and stuff like that. Honestly, I would not be surprised we get to the point where there's debtors' prisons again. That would be a great way to cull a big chunk of the population, eh? People start defaulting on their debt. Not only can you not declare bankruptcy, but if you are in debt and you can't pay your debt, then the debt holder, of course, seizes the asset and off to the concentration camp you go. In fact, I would probably even say in China, they're probably even considering doing that as we speak. So first and foremost, they're going to run into the U.S. dollar because I think as it stands right now, the U.S. is still considered the world's sort of predominant superpower. And even fucking Vladdy himself said there's no way I could go toe-to-toe with the U.S. They'd kill us right now. So my answer to this, and I don't know whether you're going to like this answer or not, but this is my direct answer to you. The United States was in an extremely vulnerable position there in 2008. And I think you could make the argument that 2008 should have been 2000s, or let's say 2008 should have been like 1928. And the break there should have been the Great Depression. The Americans went to the Chinese and said, look, we'll buy all these bad bonds off you and we'll put them over on this balance sheet over here. But just like the Great Depression, what should have happened had the Americans not done that is the American bonds should have gone into default. They should have, the prices should have collapsed. The U.S. economy should have spiraled into depression, and we should have gone through a typical Great Depression scenario. Instead, they sacrificed the purchasing power of the currency and the standard of living of the society. They printed a whole shitload of, basically doubled, tripled, quadrupled the amount of money in the system, bought all the bad bonds off with that money that they printed, put that money into the marketplace. But because if you're going to go and increase that amount of money in the marketplace, clearly that's going to have an effect, and that's what you're seeing, the hyperinflation now. What really pisses me off is that Jerome Powell actually had the audacity a few years ago to publicly say that he didn't think that the increase in the money supply was going to be inflationary. And how he could possibly think that without that being an outright lie that he was telling the public, I don't know. I don't understand that. Anybody who's listened to Milton Friedman for even a moment knows clearly the direct connection between the amount of money relative to your GDP in the system and the consumer prices that consumers have to pay for goods and services in the system. It's directly correlated. Absolutely. What bothers me is that I believe that this was all part of the banksters' plan from day one. It's just they had to put the bad bonds into this dummy account on the side, and they had to create enough distance between the actual initiation of this money printing and we will now let the prices actually explore what they're supposed to be, a la the hyperinflation. They put like a decade in between so that the public wouldn't make the direct connection between quantitative easing and hyperinflation, which I think is a crime. That's the crime that's being committed here. The problem with all of this is that it's the chicken and the egg. Who do you blame here? Because really who we should blame is the politicians who for some stupid reason think that you can just endlessly spend more money than you bring in taxes, a la deficits, when you can't. I mean, fuck, we have Zimbabwe, you have Venezuela as two perfectly good examples. You have Weimar Germany as a historic example from 100 years ago. There's 100 different countries that we can show you that when you go into this money printing spiral, it always ends in disaster. And here we are heading into disaster. A la, why did Bitcoin get created by the CIA to begin with? So the Americans got away with it because the Americans used the US dollar at the end of the Second World War as the basis for this hegemony proxy system, fighting, quote unquote, the Cold War. When in reality, I believe the Rothschilds, the banking 1%, took over the US money printing system in 1913 with the creation of the US Federal Reserve Board. And in essence, you all know it. You all see the tweets. What happened since 1971? Well, 1971 was then when they finally left the gold standard, because it turns out, oh, there's no more gold in the US Treasury. And of course, they, for like 50 years, they played this funny game where the value of the US dollar was, you have to buy and sell all your goods in US dollars, or else, sorry, we're going to kill you. And they did that successfully with guys like Gaddafi, who tried to create like a Libyan oil market where you could settle all your oil trades outside of the US, and mysteriously, all of a sudden, instant civil wars inside his country, and he's running around getting murdered by the peasants. You know, there's countless stories of that all around the world, where if third world countries didn't play ball, the leaders mysteriously ended up dead. In fact, there's actually one gentleman who we sort of send it out on the site, YouTube kind of conversation. He actually held Janet Yellen to account, and at lunch one day said that this is basically just a racket. And that the U.S. sets these countries up, that they have no choice but to take these IMF loans. If they don't, they mysteriously get assassinated. If they do, then basically their country is taken over by the banksters, and basically the banksters come in and just basically screw the locals and take over all the key assets of the country. And mysteriously, this gentleman found that he was fired a week or two later from his big, important banking job. And the only reason why we even know about this is because he made a video about it, disclosing it to the public. And I'm sure he's going to wind up dead pretty soon, too. Anyway, that's that. So the U.S. took advantage of the fact that they have the hegemony system in place. And I would make the argument that anybody right now balking against the U.S. hegemony is going to be staring down the barrel of a gun right now. And I'm not quite sure how Mr. Putin in Asia or and Eastern Europe plays into this. I will say I think there's more politics going on there than anything else, in that, you know, mysteriously Biden's son, I think it is, happened to be on a key board member seat of a big Ukrainian company. And I'm sure that was just the tip of the iceberg. I mean, Ukraine historically has been known as just the most insanely corrupt country out there. And actually, half of the reason why they don't have any of the military arms to fight the Russians right now is because they probably sold them on the black market so they could buy their dachas. I mean, Ukraine is a stunningly corrupt society. So I'm not making any excuses for Ukraine, that's for sure. But at the same time, too, I do not condone violence, and I do not condone murder. So that's what has me upset about that. Anyway, the point of the matter here is we are still under the U.S. hegemony system. Have the Americans gotten away with the bullshit? I think we're going to find out here over the next 5-10 years. You know, you listen to some guys, we have one site member, Cole, who says that according to the sort of the cycles and the astrology, the shit really hits the fan in 2027. And like I said, I like the idea that Mr. Trump comes storming back into power here in 2024. And Mr. Biden is politely told to head off to the old folks' home. I don't know whether Trump will have the mental faculties to be able to pull it off, because he's getting into his mid to late 70s now. Maybe there will have to be a next generation. But could there be an ultimate sort of Bretton Woods event that needs to happen here near the latter part of this decade to sort of solidify what this world for you millennials into your specific greed cycle, what this world looks like, who's in control, who's driving the bus? I think we find out that answer through this decade. There's your answer. I don't know whether that's a right answer, But that's my answer for you. As it stands right now, I think that the U.S. are driving the bus. U.S. Federal Reserve's driving the bus. I think if anything, now we're going to go through the process of the U.S. Federal Reserve reminding, and AKA Rothschilds, AKA 1% banking elite, AKA Canadian banking system. It's all part of the same crew. That Carney guy who used to be the Bank of Canada now, governor, now he's like Mr. Important over there on the World Economic Forum, basically laying the groundwork for what they think the future is going to look like. And they're all about carbon credits. They're all about penalizing carbon. They're all about probably trying to, really advocate for us to go green and for us to move away from fossil fuels. I might even argue that the fossil fuel producers and providers right now are reminding those greenies that, hey, the transition's not going to be nearly as smooth as you think it is. And if you aren't going to work with us, we're going to make the price of these fossil fuels now so expensive that it's going to force you, because your economy is still highly dependent on fossil fuels. You see what's happening in Germany right now. How ironic. Greta is being told, shut up, you stupid little bitch. Get back in the corner. And where's that fucking coal? Oh, there it is. Let's get the coal plants fired back up and away we go. So sorry, Greta, for being so rude. But frankly speaking, I think that's exactly what's going on right now. So there's your backdrop. I think that the banksters and the 1% elite, Bill Gates and all those clowns, I think they want us to be more green. They want us to eat insects. They want the world to become sterilized and less human beings on the planet. I think without a shadow of a doubt, that's exactly what they want. It means making our lives, as the rest of us, the other 99.9% of the world, man, it makes our life challenging. There's no doubt about it. What's it say? PMA for kid to be in good mood. Much thanks. Good day to all. All right. Thank you, Jason. All right. So this is obviously an ongoing conversation. It's interesting how at the very beginning of the course, I tell all of you level oneers, most important thing you should do is think about what the future is going to look like. So, to be invested in correct places, I think blockchain is going to be a huge part of the future. I don't mind people investing in things like Ethereum and Bitcoin. Just don't chase. Try and, buy value. So you don't want to be buying Bitcoin at 50, 60 G's when the cost of production is like $5,000, $10,000. That's just stupid. So you just have to wait for the public to get washed out for whatever reason, and keep in mind the institutions, they don't want to buy 50, 60, 70,000 Bitcoin. They want to sell you Bitcoin up at that price. So once they figure that you don't have any more money to buy off of them, well, they're going to take the price right back down to where they do want to buy it. Reload zones, 78.6, 88.6, gap fills, trend line tags, bottom of value, blah, 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 blah. All the technical analysis stuff that I talked to you guys about. Think about what is the baby boomers going to want and need in their elder years. So I like how you're thinking pharma, but again, don't chase, don't pay too much. Unfortunately, if you're going to buy penny pharma stocks, they're very speculative. CLAS was a penny Canadian pharma stock that I bought at like 20, 30 cents, and now it's 2, 3 cents. So can the same thing happen in the junior stock market that you see happen in shitcoin land? Absolutely. They're cut from the same cloth. That's venture capital. You want to go put your money into blue chip names? Perfectly fine. I might argue Ethereum and Bitcoin are your blue chippers. And like I think earlier in this rant here today, I talked to you about how interesting that Biogen looked. That was a big blue chipper that came up on our little screener here. I think as sort of like a value play. So this is a really good example. I don't know where the hell it is. Of course, I always try and do these speeches and just be so fluid and so perfectly, and then of course I go and make a reference and I derail myself. So just give me a second. I'll let this load up here. So, for those people, like it's interesting. Biorad Laboratories, I don't know who they are, but there's Biogen. That's a pretty darn big blue chip biotech stock. I mean, you tell me. What letter of the alphabet they got there? That kind of looks like a W, doesn't it? 50% rule. Could we get a double on this to get you some free stock? Maybe it's so damn expensive, you can only buy 2 shares. So if this thing gets back to $400, boom, you sell half on a double and ride the other shares. Probably the better way to play this is maybe look at something like a $300 call option that has like a couple of years of life, a leap option. That's probably the better way. That's if I was going to play this, that's the way I'd probably want to play this. But there's nothing wrong with that thinking. It's perfectly fine. Point here is you're not chasing. And is this maybe a company that's going to do well with the baby boomers aging and biotech? I think so. It makes sense. So, things that, we got a whole bunch of names that, all the Cathie Woods ideas. Ironically enough, Cathie Woods can't buy a friend in the marketplace. But I think a lot of her ideas are all perfectly valid. It's just you got to try and inject a little bit of technical timing into the purchases. So there we had things like, I thought a really good example, and I actually even did this, was, she was all the rage and everybody was in love with her. And there was one name, this NNDM. And while this is nano dimensions, and these are supposed to be nanobots, of course, going into the baby boomers' bodies and fixing things that are broken from the inside out. What the hell? I'll throw a couple bucks at it. I'm not going to go and chase. And this, of course, is when Cathie Woods was all popular. And look at what the damn stock did. You should look at any market that does this and go, fucks, do not chase. Don't FOMO. I mean, look at that crazy ass move. Look at that. That's ridiculous. That's like, 70, 80 cents a share to $17, $18 a share. Come on. This is just like Novogratz. It's the same damn thing. So, gee whiz, she falls out of favor. The stock comes back to reload zones. Brian's like, well, if you want a nanny nibble, it's perfectly fine. And then you can see even hit 88.6, which is like our super insano correction. So you can see Brian's in there buying, just doing what I do. There's another example of, is this kind of a company that I think will do well going forward? I think so. Anything that sort of serves that baby boomer generation heading into their elder years. Blockchain infrastructure. I think I like the idea of blockchain. I think I showed you guys. It's the same logic as this NNDM, right? We'll throw up Galaxy, right? Would I be interested in how's the symbol? Is it XY? In Mr. Novogratz? Yeah, I think so. Heading into next cycle? Sure. I mean, Al, you can see where the bottom is. Don't chase. You got any business buying up here? Kind of stupid if you do. Unfortunately, a lot of public does. Do I actually have a bottom here yet? Not yet. How about trade location? Have we got a half decent trade location? I think that's something we can all agree on, right? All right, Josie says, thank you, Brian. Remember, energy does not get created or destroyed, only transformed. Thanks for putting your energy into this. Oh, that's a cool statement. Thanks, Josie. Anyone? Have we got a half decent trade location here? How about if I change this to a log chart? That'll probably help you see this a little better. How do I get rid of that? Just go boosh. There we go. Hey, log. Hey. You see the big honking W? Actually, it's not even a W. Well, that's interesting. I guess it's a W against these lows, but even then, it's not even a W. Anyway, there's reload zones. When you look on a log scale, it sure looks twisted, eh? There's 88.6. It's interesting. What did we say about gaps? Something about gaps. This gets a little scarier, right? Yuck. Ouch. And yuck. Ouch. There's also another one there. Looks like there's another one there. Let's just use these two as rare. Oh, look, there's another one there. Oh boy, this doesn't look good. So where the hell do these things take us? All right, so that's down in this area. That is interesting with Mr. Novogratz. Is there a letter of the alphabet forming there that we might be interested in? Look at that now. See that? Isn't that interesting how Ethereum's a buy right now, right? It's breaking out, and I actually argue that probably the market's a buy here. And yet, look how few people there are here, right? Isn't that incredible? It always works this way. And then, the fucking market will jump up and and then there'll be like 50 people in this hanging out all banging away, Well, I hope you all are going, well, this kind of looks like it went down, then it went up, then it went down. Maybe we got something there. If we can get a close above $6.05, we actually got a nice little W. Well, that's a gap, so unfortunately, if we go straight up, then it does mean at some point we got to come back down and fill that gap in. I don't think that's going to happen right. Or maybe, we even just backfill that, fill it in, and then go. But I think you can make a pretty good argument that if we do get up through that $6.05, this thing's back in play. You can see how it W'd out here. We had a nice rally, and then I think that's actually when the Luna shit really hit, and boom, down she goes. What is my red line? Which red line? So many red lines. Do you see which one I'm talking about? I don't know. Maybe this one here, that high to high to high trend line. I do like this one, that low to low. That's probably a nice counter trend rally. You can see we were thinking trend continuation trades, but that's off the table now. So probably easier to see the bigger picture if we go back to a regular chart. My hunch is any kind of short-term rally. We got to clear through this level here. All right, so we got to get on the other side of this. And this makes sense, right? Because quite often what ends up happening is kind of like what you see here is our rule, of course, is and maybe let's ask. I don't know whether you guys are in. Well, actually, there's not many people here. Nobody on YouTube's participating, so I won't. We need to see a W on the other side of this trend line, right? You might get the breakout there, but that's not a buy signal. That's really dangerous because what ends up happening, and this is a really, really good example. You go, Brian, look at that. That's a nice buy. And look at me. I'm rich. And no, you're not. And look how we came right back down against that same damn trend line. And look at what we are doing here. That's a really, really good example. Actually, Chris, if you were going to do a tutorial, it's not very long, but this is a really, really good tutorial on why you have to have the W come in on the other side of the trend line. Holy moly. Yeah, I don't know. Point here is Oops. Yeah. Point here is, and keep in mind, this guy here, he's still licking his wounds, eh? So this guy here, Mr. Novogratz, he was literally, Mr. Novogratz was walking on water, eh? He could do no fucking wrong. Then he went and got one tattoo. So do you understand why I do not have a single tattoo on my entire body? And the day I get a tattoo, you all should run for the fucking hills. So I kind of agree with you, Eddie. I don't think that there is a bull here. There's no, I mean, like you can see, lower highs and lower lows. So technically, it's continuing to work its way lower. It does look to me like it's a bit of a descending wedge there. Yeah. So can you see the descending wedge? Theoretically, that should be bullish. But what probably happens here is it breaks the wedge, probably even rallies up and fills in that gap there, and then runs into this trend line, then has to come all the way back down and do something like that. So that's probably the pattern here. But I would agree with you. This is yesterday's story. And Mr. Novogratz is in the doghouse right now. And unless he comes out and says with some great news about how Luna is resurrected and how all shareholders who bought the Galaxy story and the Luna and all that, they're all made whole again. I think Mr. Novogratz, and you can see all the gaps, and you see how on any kind of rally, this thing is just going to run into a world of selling. Every one of these gaps, you've got a whole bunch of trap bulls in here that would love nothing more than to get the fuck out of this thing. So just monstrous resistance the whole way up here. This is going to take some time. Maybe this thing does turn. Then maybe we get our W on the other side of the trend line. Then maybe it works up into here. Then maybe we have to work our way back. Then we do reload zones. Then maybe we do a W here. Then we work our way up here. Then we come back. Long and short of it here is, the long and short of this is we do not think bullishly here until we start seeing, ironically enough, the worst part about this is not a bull until we actually W out on the other side of this trend line way over here. This trend line here. So at best, we're stuck in a trading range. At best. This trading range could make you a lot of money. Don't get me wrong. And you might find that, once we get through 2023, because Benner cycle is supposed to be absolute crap, usually Bitcoin bottoms through that 23. Go watch all my old previous broiler chickens. We won't go into all that crap, but Benner cycle today, Bitcoin should bottom, say, the first half of next year. I think coming out the second half of 2023 is when we'll start talking a little bit more bullishly in this space and actually start talking about like serious trends pushing higher. Then, 2024, 2025, Winnie the Pooh wants to do his big Belt and Road initiative. I think they're going to bid the market up into that event. It should be a relatively good time period. If the Republicans take control of the government and down in the states, then you'll have that balance of power back again, where you have the sort of socialist, populist as the president, but the right wing controlling the purse strings, and they'll do things like they'll actually start getting the U.S. oil industry back producing oil again. Keep in mind, under Trump, the U.S. was actually a net exporter of oil. So there's no reason for these oil prices to be this high, other than simply the fact that the socialists or the left wing, for some reason, they just decided we are now going to put the U.S. oil industry out of business. And you see the end result. And of course, my leader in my country, the guy's total doofus. Canada's sitting on the third largest oil reserves in the world. and we don't even produce any gasoline here. So it's just so stupid that with the economics of this situation, you got a couple socialists that are like, yeah, you know what? Oil's dirty. It's old. We're going to leave that society, and the whole fucking economy unwinds. And that's what we're actually going through right now. That is probably more of a driver of what's happening in our society now than anything to do with this sickness, which is tragic because they literally use the sickness as cover to try and pull this sort of fossil fueling our society bullshit over our eyes. And I don't think it worked. I think if anything, it completely backfired in the socialist sort of left-leaning fucking Klaus world. I think this is completely backfired in their faces. Anyway, rant. So, could we get dead cat bounces that can produce rallies here? Maybe. Is this in the value sort of spectrum of stock investing? It's getting there. It's no longer this stupidity anymore. Don't chase. Is it a bull? No, clearly not. And unfortunately for Mr. Novogratz, this thing won't be a bull for quite some time. In fact, I might even argue it's probably range bound for quite a long period of time going forward. It needs time to clean itself up, but there is no real runaway bull market here. So he says, please explain with the trend line and the W on the other side of the trend line. Well, I hate to say it, but this is the absolute perfect reasoning there, right? Where you might have said, I'm going to buy this W there because that's a W. And you see, this W is not on the other side of this trend line. This W is on the underside of the trend line. So this is not a market structure signal on the other side of the trend line. So as a result, this is not actually a real signal. Neither is this. That's a fake signal to me. So the breakout happens. Everybody, of course, goes rah bullish. And then notice, look where the market came right back to. Came right back to that trend line because this was not a breakout through this. This was nothing more than just really what the market's doing here is it's just literally just oscillating around this trend line. That's all it's doing is it's just oscillating. Wait, for us to believe that we've left this trend line and this trend line is no longer valid, we have to see market structure, which market structure in itself creates a new trend line. You see how that works? Why do we call this a trend line? Well, we call this a trend line because the market went through the process here where it went up, down, up, fail. And it actually traded through that low there. So that's a valid trend line now. You could do trend lines the whole damn way down here. Right? In fact, actually, really look at that trend line there. And look at what happened there. So this is a bear. Any way you look at it, I'm not quite sure if that's valid, though. Well, let's go. Let's do this one, right? This is nice and simple. So boom, boom, there. So you're telling me that that's a buy signal, and I'm telling you this would be a buy signal if this trend line here, this breakout is an actual buy signal if it breaks out and then puts in a W, which establishes new trend line, new market structure. That's why you have to have the W on the other side of the trend line. If you don't get this market structure, you notice as soon as whatever sort of inertia that pushed this thing up, as soon as that exhausts itself, look how we just do. All we do is we just come right back to the trend line. You see that? So there's two perfect examples. The trend line is validated through market structure. And, sadly, in the marketplace, this is where most people get technical analysis wrong because they don't even understand how you actually draw a trend line. What is a valid trend line and what's a potential trend? And that's actually where a lot of people fail at this game. So why is this trend line actually valid? Why is it important to watch how price action acts on that trend line? The answer is because this trend line was established with this market structure. Up, down, up, fail. Right there, the trend line is validated. So I hope that whoever asked that question, Julia, it's a very complicated question that you're asking. It's probably not something I can really totally vet out here in one of these YouTube videos. This is a key concept in our level 2 program. What's the difference between valid and potential trend lines? And what's the what actually makes a valid trend line valid? And why is market structure, this idea of M's and W's, why is it so important? So hopefully that helps. Okay, I got to get moving here. Good thing is I already took a shower today, so I don't have to still take a shower. So, okay, pharma, healthcare, blockchain companies, right? I think that's good thinking going forward. You might also think robotics, artificial intelligence, all that kind of stuff. Oh, good, excellent. Hit the like button, subscribe, ring Colleen's bell, tell a friend. Let's see if we can get more than 50 viewers of these silly YouTube videos on a weekly basis. I don't know. It must be that Eddie, what is it about me? Why is it I don't have like 10 million followers? I don't get it. What am I missing here? Is I just got to get that damn Instagram account set up? Is that what's missing? Anyway. So I think on balance, you're heading in a good direction. Not really? Oh, it's something else? Brian, you swear like a fucking sailor. Charts? What does that mean? People don't like charts? All right. Some of the wares, would you like more insights? And by all means, let's have, this should be an ongoing conversation. Because I make you guys work. I like that answer. That's a good answer. And that's appropriate, right? Because we're trying to make a positive difference in this world. We're not just blowing smoke up your ass. Okay, so this should be an ongoing conversation on the site. This isn't something that just ends, right? This is constantly, every single quarter when we get a new quarter's worth of data for the sort of the first 2 week study. Of course, we just had one. Josh, if you're listening to this later on, we should do a first 2 week study. I think actually he did, speaking of which, he's getting really good at these blog posts now, I gotta tell you. So we should, we'll explore that tomorrow. So Mike, I hope that helped answer your question. Oh, level 2 or 2 as well. Hope you're enjoying the level 2 program with Kiran and Marat. God, aren't those guys awesome? It's just incredible. We're so lucky at TRI. We've got such great instructors. Really, really good people. All right. PS, update during show. Yes, PMA for reaching a higher consciousness. Totally. I mean, that's sort of what this whole... I have a feeling that the 1% don't want the human masses to make that move to the higher consciousness. I really do. And I think that they do things like inflation, which is nothing more than just a fucking, 1% Klaus is just going to take a nice big shit on all our faces. That's what inflation is. So sad. Anyway, thank you, Brian, for your sharing all your observations and knowledge. Okay, awesome, cool. That's totally good to hear that positive feedback. I like that. Okay, hi, David, level 0. Hey, how'd you get into this document? First, what about us lost souls once you guys will be partying hard in Portugal? What about Australia? Well, I mean, we're only going to be there like, what, 10 days? And what was so funny was when I was doing daily briefs and shit like that, when I was traveling through Europe, man, I remember one morning we did a daily brief in London. And the boys, they actually came in halfway through. They didn't even go to sleep. We had one guy on the site. He was the coolest guy in the world. His name was Tom. He was like uber smart, just insane smart. And he put fucking Raph to shame. This guy partied so fucking hard. He was so cool. I'd love to see you again, Tom, if you are. And I heard that Raph is bringing a crew down from the UK. So, Bobo, you said you're humming and hawing. I'd really like to see you, sir. Get off your butt and come down to Portugal. So will we be left on your own? Of course not. I mean, that's the best part about this. I used to tell people when I was a broker, I could be sitting here in a diaper smoking a cigar. Would it make any difference? I mean, in all honesty, would it make any fucking difference as long as I gave you good stock picks and we didn't do stupid things like blow up your account? Would it make any difference? And they were like, well, I guess not. So now with this interneting, I mean, fuck hell, I could do the daily brief from an airplane, I suppose, if I want, flying around. So there shouldn't make any difference. All right, second, do you use some kind of app alerts to track your positions? Actually, you know what I do, which is, I used to do it in crypto, but actually we just blew out the whole fucking Trex nightmare. It's over. So I'm no longer associated with Trex, which is a real shame because what do you think the odds are now that they've gone and kicked all the Canadians off at Trex? All of a sudden, you're going to see all of these Canadian names like Ubic. All of a sudden, they're going to start to take off like a rocket because Trex is the only place they trade. I swear that that place was so fucking corrupt. Oh, man. And while I had my account there, I always kept my mouth shut. I didn't say anything. But man, I mean, I'm actually surprised those guys are even still in business, to be perfectly honest with you. But the nightmare is now over. But it kind of sucks because I would like to still participate. But what I used to literally do is I just make a watch list and you can see. I mean, I was long all of these things. And what I did, I started with like $500. And I just, I bought something, sold half on a double, and then I just forget about it. And so as a result, my list of coins, God, I must at one point on Trex, I had about 200 or 300 coins. Then the account was, Jesus, was the better part of $1 million in 17, 18. And what's interesting is we took the money, whatever was left, we took 100,000 in cash out. Then I took another 100,000 in cash out. Then we took like 30 or 40 and put it in gold. And even what's left over, after all of that, Stewart tells me that there's still like about $200,000 that he transferred over to Kraken. And most of it's now just in Bitcoin and some of the names that I could keep positions in, like fucking Doge and stuff. But yeah, pretty disappointed in the way crypto's gone. I don't know how much active crypto I'm actually going to do going forward. I've kind of just left it up to the boys, but it's really weird. Like I asked if we could buy a crypto there the other day, and even Stewart says, "And do you keep track of these buys that we're doing?" He says, "I can check and buy some." So really, TRI's direct crypto activity, frankly speaking, I actually have kind of lost contact. We got to sort of figure out what the hell TRI is even doing and what our policy is and how we're going to participate. Of course, poor old Stewart, he went hip deep in that Luna stuff and got absolutely decimated. So, I'm sure he's a little bit leery about crypto directly as well. I do know that I went and bought like a whack of this Ethereum. I think I bought 10 G's worth there about a month or so ago, around a G. And I told all you guys that I'm probably going to be selling a whack of this into that Portugal event to sort of pay for the cost of the trip. I I do a lot of stock trading on my own for my own personal accounts, but I also have a stock trading account for TRI that I manage. So all of this kind of stuff. And how do I track things? Well, you can see here is my universe of crap that I own and all the little notations of all the different accounts that I have things in. Each different color is a different account. So that's basically how I'm managing it right now. And of course, I go on to my broker accounts and I review the positions regularly. And, of course, talking on the site, like for example, we had a name that was one of our old timers, Kevin, one of his names. I haven't seen him on the site in forever, but I don't know, I suppose he's doing well in the world. Hope so. But one of his ideas popped off, and all I do is I just, you can see there's all the crypto stocks, right? All on a nice, polite list. But this bad boy popped off. And interestingly enough, my next, in fact, this was the most recent activity in the stock market for me is that trade. Yeah, it's a pretty good looking trade. So thank you, Kevin, for the idea. And really, we have tons and tons of ideas on the site. Just because you have an idea and you buy it, then the question is how are you going to manage the position? So here's a pretty good example where this is how I just basically slowly spoon feed the market. And I don't know where the hell this damn thing's going. But every time the damn thing doubles in price, Brian will be out there selling more. So this is just the way that I run my business. And basically, I just have these watch lists. And you can see, like PAL here, for example, this was a Palladium stock that I owned, but it was actually taken over. And actually, I just got a cash payout on that. Boring. Some of these warrants that I was in, they've actually expired. Some of these stocks, you can see some of them I'm still watching. They have no reference to them. Other people are interested in them. Some, this is an interesting one. Zach and I, you know what? We're running out of time here. I got to get going. Point here is if I'm going to, I have basically a watch list. And this is senior stocks. Is also junior stocks. You want to see my piece of shit little pharma stock that I bought? There it is. Hey, way to go, Brian. I can lose money with like a boss, like everybody else in the market. The good part about this is that, on my average cost, I think is about 20 cents, 30 cents, somewhere in there. And I'm dying 1,000 deaths. Don't get me wrong. This thing is a piece of shit. But the good part about this is it had a really low amount of shares out. So could they restructure it again and run it up on a brand new story, or get some financing and get back to work on what originally got us interested in this thing? Sure. So that's the one good thing I like about buying low share count stocks is technically the idea is not dead, but I'll tell you, we're pretty sick right now on this thing. There's no doubt about it. So, and this is how I basically follow. You can see my universe of stocks that I follow, and I just scroll through this on a daily basis, just looking at what needs to be done. A perfect example, these are penny piece of shit stocks, but here's a stock I was so proud about. This was a spread trade that our level 3 instructor did. I didn't even put the fucking trade on. I found it, but I didn't put it on. He put the trade on because he loved it so much, and now he's killing it. He made just a fantastic profit on this trade. Just absolutely perfect. So, and this is a big blue chip bank stock. So, in essence, everything that I do in the stock market, I follow off of this sheet. And whether it be options or stocks or warrants or penny stocks, it's all just basically written up here. So I hope that helps. And then keep in mind too, I'm also busy Monday to Friday, and I just set it up. It's been my sort of big aim. I actually want to go back to prop trading. And so actually I just set up my futures account. So Monday to Friday, and actually in the daily briefs and what I do with you guys, because keep in mind, in a bear market, I'm not going to be selling halves on doubles a lot, right? So what I'm actually doing is I'm trading a lot off of like lower time frames and just sort of demonstrating how do you hunt setups off of trading futures contracts. And there's the latest futures trade that I was doing in last week. So ironically enough, most of my attention Monday to Friday is actually now on these markets, including Ethereum and Bitcoin from the futures market perspective. So I'm all over the place. But the one thing that and it was near and dear to my heart because it was a lot of fun playing in this crypto market. I think we're probably going back into this market state because I think that the 24-25 will be really, really good for the shitcoins. I don't think the shitcoins really participated in this last rally so much, but I think this coming cycle, I think that's when they have their day in the sun. So I would like to participate in the shitcoin market. The question, it really is where the hell do we do this? Look at this. They're even rallying this cocksucker even now as we speak. I mean, it drives you. If I'm going to write a book and probably a few chapters on crypto, I'll have very interesting, colorful stories about this Bittrex website and Bittrex Bill and the horrendous corruption that I've seen in this space. I mean, it is staggering, the corruption. But anyway, it is what it is. All right. And, probably maybe even in Portugal, maybe Sjord and Julian and I will sit down and we'll figure out a new plan for this coming cycle. Because really, I think exactly like 2014, I think 2024, we just sit down and we say, all right, let's grab $500 and let's see if we can ramp $500 up into $1 million just like we did last go round. Because I think the same scenario setting itself up. So maybe we'll have a little bit more clarity on where we're actually doing our shitcoin purchases after that Portugal meetup. Okay, do you buy and forget? Yeah, I mean, I think I just walked you through how I track everything. Do I set sell orders? Absolutely. God, my sell book is very, very thick. OCO order cancels order. Can't really do that on crypto. Can't even really do that in the stock market, especially position trading. But futures trading, absolutely. All right, hopefully that helps. And last question, then I'm out of here. Hey, Brian, Grim went over the Heiken Ashi candles and how it's not recommended to use them in level 1. But I noticed that if you go back to the charts you are looking at, and if you use Japanese candlesticks instead of Heiken Ashi, the volume bars end up being different colors and possibly different signals. Absolutely. Can you please clarify whether the volume impetus is fine to analyze using Japanese candlesticks instead of Heiken Ashi? I believe all of the examples in the class were done using Heiken Ashi, so I'm a little confused. Yeah, you know what I would just simply say is I think I probably should go redo the whole video lecture not using Heiken Ashi. So my apologies there. I would even say that this course is probably a little overdue to get completely redone. I think that the volume impetus signal is extremely valuable. And it doesn't really matter what asset you're looking at, but I think the key is that you have to make sure that the color of the bars matches the volume bar, matches what the asset actually did on the day. And where we sometimes go wrong is sometimes they will color the bars. You'll see where it says color bars based on previous close. If you actually load the volume by default, it will not have that checked. So you might have a situation where because a candle itself either closes up or down, it actually gives a different signal. So let's see if I can find one here. Usually when you try and find one off the top of your head, you never can, but let's see if I can. Okay, I think here's an example. Okay, so can you see here? Market opened up here, beep, closed here. Next candle, market opened up here, beep, then closed here, beep. That is an up day. But notice when you look, because we colored the candles, that like by default, the way this loads, it's going to color the candles based on the candle color, and that's wrong. You have to make sure that the candles are colored based on whether this was an up or a down day. Now, in this particular case, you can see that actually that was an up day. And this actually produces a volume impetus signal because it's a very, very low volume day. So in essence, the volume impetus concept is, hold on. Oh, all right. Volume impetus concept is all about the bulls and the bears. So we need to know, this is an extremely low volume day. So we need to know, was that an up day or a down day? And actually, it was an up day and just no buyers showed up. And your whole volume impetus idea is we have a high there and we have another high here. So if we get a day where the volume goes less than that bar there, that's telling you that the bulls have fallen asleep. So boom, you can see bulls falling asleep, a little bit up again. And now do we get a volume day below this one? There's another M, and you can see this day's up. So nope, that's 76.4. That's 79. So that bar is not lower than that bar, but that bar is, boom, that is now, you have, if we counted them, this would be the first high. This is the second high. This is now the third high right there. So if we get a signal below that, that is a volume impetus signal. The bulls have fallen asleep. Then, and this is the important thing with volume impetus, and I didn't see too much conversation about this today in the class. It's incumbent on the other camp, in this case, the bears, since the bulls just fell asleep on this candle, it's incumbent on the bears to actually wake up and take over. And how do they do that? Well, that's what all of this ramp up in volume is. The bears coming alive and taking over. So first and foremost, these candles must show, how do I say this? They must reflect whether it was a up day or a down day in raw terms. The market was up, the market was down. And the problem there is that the Heikin-Ashi candles are averages. They are not actual true price action, right? If we change this to a Heikin-Ashi chart, you might find that the candles actually look very different. All right, so here is our Heikin-Ashi candles now. Interesting. Do you see how the volume impetus, because this is actually asking what the candle is doing relative to the previous candle. Interesting how that was an up candle there. Interesting how that was a down candle. Good to see that the bearish volume, remember we said incumbent on the bears to wake up. But these are averages. I mean, I really do, don't get me wrong. And they always say a good trade is a good trade is a good trade. But I do like that this was a nice sell signal right in there. Nice inside bar failure. Double top breakdown. You could make an argument that that's also a sell signal there. So interestingly enough, we have the bearish volume confirming price structure here. The only thing I would say, I mean, this is valid, but it's not the real price action. The real price action doesn't look as polite as that. It looks more like this. Very similar. Don't get me wrong. Very similar. And you can see the impetus signal changed slightly. There was only one green bar there, which actually did validate the signal as well. But notice that on the Heikin Ashi, this went red. That was a red candle there. On balance, I think they both agreed and they flashed sells. The bears took over here. I think on balance, they both pointed out this double top and this failure, inside bar failure. But you notice that the candles themselves look slightly different. So my suggestion to you is for the level 1, let's try and make this as simple as possible. And let's just go with the raw, pure price action. It's going to be, they're pretty darn similar, but what you just have to understand, if you want like the textbook definition, Heikin Ashis are averages, so they're not the actual real price action in the marketplace. So as a result, I think the best thing for me to suggest to you is that Brian, in the off season, needs to go and re-record those video lectures. And it's been a long overdue, but some of them really do need updating. And I think that's one in particular. It's a good question, perfectly valid question. I think the course material needs updating. That is my honest answer to you. All right, so the point of the matter here, and actually it was interesting because we did have an interesting conversation there this morning, and I just wanted, for clarification purposes, Grim, of course, doing fantastic work, absolutely fantastic work, and I would not question anything that Grim sort of suggested to you as best practices. I think he knows his shit, and I don't have a problem whatsoever endorsing Grim's suggestions to you. I think you're in a very good direction just following along. I will say that I try as hard as I can to sit in on as many classes as possible. And if I ever hear any of the instructors kind of waffling a little bit on answering a question specifically, I like the idea of just taking the opportunity in these broiler chicken shows. And, if I hear, either Zach on Fridays, I'll probably do it in a daily brief, or Kiran on Tuesdays. And a lot of the time, the instructors are correcting Brian. So just remember that. I mean, I'm not infallible, that's for damn sure. But I just wanted to make some clarification here. Grim was pointing out a volume impetus signal. You notice that the market was moving higher here. And I just wanted to clarify, right? Think of those 3 lower highs to try and see where the the bull officially falls asleep. And I just, for the person who asked in class, I hope you're watching this later on, because I said I would make reference to this in the broiler chicken show. Super important. You see, okay, there's a high, there's a high. So we have this in here, but we don't actually ask whether the bull has fallen asleep until we have that 3rd high. So in this particular case, there's the 2nd high. We came back, started to drift down, and then the lowest volume bar actually looks to be like that bar right there. Now we came up a bit, and so if I get a bar that's lower than this bar right here, then I get that signal. And I don't know, when I was sitting in class, I couldn't tell whether this actually broke down here or whether we broke down here. That's a tough one. Looks like that's valid there. What I want you doing, though, is I want you looking at your indicator when you see that breakdown. And as I had said earlier, what's incumbent on the breakdown if this is a transition from a bull to a bear, what's incumbent is we want to see the bears wake up and do something. And what I was a little concerned about is, yes, you have sort of messages that the bull's falling asleep here, but notice that the bear didn't really get going until over here. And so what I just wanted to point out was, when you look at your indicator, you notice that here is where the actual market starts to fail. So Yes, we have volume impetus, bulls falling asleep in here. I don't know whether I actually have, and you notice that the moving average kind of waffled there. I can't tell whether that low is actually lower than that low. That's a tough one. But you notice that these lows in volume are substantially lower than these lows. And so I actually think that the bull fell asleep right here on that yellow line. And then you notice, whoops, oh, Jesus. Now what have I done? Looks like I lost. There it is. That was weird. Glad there weren't any naked ladies in that folder, eh? Anyway, notice here corresponds with this M in the OBV indicator. And then really what we want to ask is, do I have an M in price? And notice that was a new high. Then we pulled back. Then we went up. And then we double top breakdown failed through this low on this big red candle day there. So your actual outright sell signal, notice the bears ramping up here. Now I'd show you, but I screw things up here. Notice this is where the bears start to really become active. So interestingly enough, we actually need, and you might even find that the bears broke out in here, but even more so over here. So I just wanted to throw my 2 cents in with regard to Grimm's example here. I think this is a little bit early, this point right here, to say that the bear has taken control, but I do like the idea that the bull is falling asleep here. And I actually think that the bull fully fell asleep on this yellow noted really low volume bar right there. That's where I think the bull actually fell asleep. Bears ramping up. Woohoo! Look at the bear coming alive here. And then notice the bulls, they just never showed up. In fact, they didn't show up until way over here. Right? So that's actually over here. When the bull finally says, well, okay, maybe we're alive. The bear's like, I'm still driving the bus, screw you. The bulls are like, hey, but we're still active. We're still active. And really at this point now, we got to see who W's out first to take over again. And if we start to see 3 lower highs, then it'll mean somebody's falling asleep. And since the bear was already in control right here, we really don't want to see the bears fall asleep, i.e. 3 lower highs. And right now, if anything, I can't see a hell of a lot of signals here anyway. And I don't see the bulls making higher highs and higher lows. Then you look at your indicator and notice as of this point, here come M's again. So the bulls are clearly, they have not woken up and taken over here. Okay, a little bit of a side. I don't know whether that was a help or not. My apologies, Grim, if you are watching, if I stepped on your toes a little bit there this morning. But I just wanted to chime in on that particular image that I saw. That was a tricky one. I know they put you to sort of, it's tricky, especially with the Heikin-Ashi issue. Bottom line is we do need to get rid of that Heikin-Ashi reference. It should just be the regular candlesticks. And I would suggest for all of you level 1ers, just stick with the regular candlesticks. You want to use Heikin-Ashi. We have our level 3 TA. Ray is a huge fan of Heikin-Ashi. So wait till you get to the level 3, and then he'll school you on everything that he knows about Heikin-Ashi. All right. Okay, I think we'll leave it at that. So that gives me enough time to get out of here and get to Liam. Wish me all best of luck with the boy today. Positive karma. Turns out Liam is moving digs over the next couple weeks. So we're going to have a lot of changes in Liam's life. So I need lots of positive karmic wishes. He's going to be pretty stressed out. So PMA for the win. And I guess regular site members, if you felt like you got some good value out of today's broadcast and you'd like to join us, keep in mind we do have a 30-day trial that's open at any time. You want to pop on the site and get to know us a little bit better. And of course, we got all these totally awesome tools that Now, actually, I like the idea that we actually have a nice diverse basket of products to actually offer the public, whether it be individual trading models, like following Josh along with his swing trading of Bitcoin, whether it be day trading futures. If anything, it's really cool. Now, basically, you can day trade futures with me just following my journal. Actually, it's interesting. In my journal, I did a big study on the first 2 weeks. Remember, I made reference to that. So I'll probably talk to the site members about that tomorrow. But in essence, every single day I'm in there day trading futures. So I think this is a valuable product that I think people would be willing to subscribe to. Of course, we've got the dashboard, and the good part about the journal that I have up and running is it goes really well with our Monday to Friday commentary in the market. The dashboard itself, I think this is incredibly valuable information. You should all look at this image, and there should be one thing that you look at on this image and you go, uh-oh. But I'm not going to tell you what it is. The point here is, if anything, Chris, can you make a mental note or put a note on the file that I just made reference to that at the very end of today's Broiler Chickens show? And then over the next week or two, we're going to see this play out. And at that point, I'll tell you what it is that you should have been looking for. What do you think, Chris? Do you think we can do that? So the point being that this is, were you about to say something? Okay, thanks, man. Incredibly valuable information. This gives you just unbelievable edge over the competition in the marketplace. Even whether it just be crypto alone. I got a big buy signal on Ethereum. And interestingly enough, I had to wait for the actual breadth indicator to turn back up to validate the signal. But I think it came in perfectly. And I showed you all that Bitcoin dominance chart earlier. That lines up perfectly. Do you see what image is that? Do you see what that looks like right there? Which pisses me off because I had to go and fucking sell all those goddamn coins on fucking Trex. You know that the fucking altcoin market is about to go fucking crazy here. Fucking fuck. You're going to need a lot of chicken sounds there, Chris. So, incredibly valuable tool. Gives us incredible edge over the public. Just stunning. And then, of course, Mondays is actually when I go through the signals on the actual signaling system. So we're going to have a really interesting conversation talking about weekly key reversals tomorrow morning. Interesting. FedEx put in another bullish. Actually, I guess it's the same signal. But fascinating and also interesting too. Best Buy, KLA Tencor. Isn't that interesting? That broke down because that's a semiconductor stock. Nvidia broke down. Isn't that interesting? Weekly bearish key reversals. And Mr. Nancy was in there buying. Well, it sounds to me like we have a very interesting conversation to have tomorrow morning. All right. So I think we're going to offer this product at like $50 a month or something like that in the new year. I think this is stunning value for that kind of money. So come on site, kick the tires a little bit, 30-day free trial. Maybe for the basic $20 a month, just following Brian's journal and videos and, getting access to the blog in real time and all that. And of course, histogram and breadth. Actually, you won't get the full breadth for that $20 a month. But I think there are a number of different tiers for this product offering that I think justify the memberships. And then, of course, Dovetail, you want to learn how to actually build a small business of trading and learn how to actually play this game correctly, which most people in the world, including this guy, I hate to say it, don't really know how to play this game correctly. Well, rock and roll. Let's get you educated, and then you can actually come and use all of these site tools to go and make a fortune. So, okay, everybody, I think I'll leave it at that. PMA for the win. Hope you enjoyed that offering. Hopefully I answered everybody's questions. Next school term, of course, starts in September. We got the big meetup in September. So all you current students, stay focused, finish your course material. If anything, hopefully we have a nice friendly little market here for the next couple months heading forward. PMA for the win, all the best. And the only thing left for Brian to say is give us a big karmic shout out for Liam. Have yourselves a great day, and bye for now.